Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode. This is episode 14 of the Cookout.
Jeez Louise, that sounds crazy.
I know, right? We creeping up on 20, creeping up on Halloween, creeping up a lot of things, creeping up on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and all be here before you know it.
Jeez, before we know it, it'll be our anniversary.
Right. And it like
That's crazy.
what's that? When did we start? June?
I think so.
Had to be. Um,
I think so, yeah.
yeah, so
I
how's
guess
your week been?
not. This feels soon, but not really. How has my week been? So at the beginning of COVID, I decided I was going to redo my bedroom, right? I figured it's COVID, I want to enjoy my space. Plus, we talked about, being on Cookout. I need to be on camera more. Let me, do it my room so it's more comfortable. And I can like create a space in there where I can film in there instead of being in my mom's office, which is where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I bought some furniture months ago, and because of COVID, it took 3 months for my furniture to get here, right? My furniture comes, everything looks nice, smooth, good. My mattress takes a couple extra days to come. I got the mattress from someplace else. Tell me why I bought a queen size bedroom set, bought a queen size mattress, and they delivered a full size mattress.
That's what?
Yes. And so I call the people like, yo, this ain't the right size mattress.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, sincerest apologies, we'll take care of you. But unfortunately, we can't take the mattress back.
How does that work out? How do
I
they
don't
figure
know if
that?
it's because of COVID or if this has just been a rule, but the vendor will not take the mattress back. So I did get my money back, but I now have a mattress that does not fit. So I have to deal with that. And on top of that, I have to place another order for my mattress. And what pisses me off is the mattress is mad comfortable. So I ordered another mattress from the same place, right? But I told them if y'all deliver the wrong size mattress again, I'm gonna have a fit.
Yeah. God. But okay, so if it's a set, right?
Mhm.
How is the mattress mix matched?
Well, I bought the mattress from someplace else.
You bought the mattress someplace else.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So I bought the bedroom set from one place, which it took forever to come because of COVID. The mattress only took a few days, but they sent me the wrong size. So
They
not only did I have to wait forever for my furniture to come, now I still don't have a mattress because they messed that up. So I ordered I ordered the right mattress the first time. So I ordered the correct mattress again, and hopefully it is delivered without any problems, probably by the end of this week.
let's hope so.
It better. Because when I tell you, like, first of all, I don't know if you've ever gotten a mattress delivered in the mail, but they like suck all the air out of them, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Is it
vacuum chicken
you got
breast.
yeah, yeah. If it's a
It's a
memory foam,
process to get that thing out of the wrapping in the first place, and you probably can't even tell that it's the wrong size until you get it open because there was no labeling on the outside. It was just the packing slip for with my order information on it, not for what was in the mattress. So I'm gonna lug that back upstairs again and unwrap it before I know if it's the right size.
is it one of those memory foam mattresses or like
It's
is it
a
like
hybrid mattress, which is
hybrid?
dope. A hybrid, like it has springs, but it also has the memory
The
foam in
memory,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So it's soft, but it still has that bounce and spring. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's wonderful. And I got the one with cool technology, so the mattress itself will stay cool. Man, when I tell you I'm so mad it doesn't fit, I'm about to take the naps of a lifetime. I'm not gonna lie, I did take one nap on it though, just to see. Like,
Yeah, you gotta test it.
and that's when I was like, okay, yeah, I made the right decision by purchasing this mattress.
Yeah, I
So
mean, because at least you got to test the mattress out to see if that the brand and the quality of the mattress work. You know what I'm saying? I guess that's if you want to look at take a positive out of it, the whole situation, even though they
that's
screwed up.
only plus. But I'll know for sure if I'm good once the mattress comes and it's the right size. Like it needs to be the right size and needs to be undamaged. Everything needs to be perfect. And now I have to figure out what to do with this other full size mattress. I think I'm gonna sell it online, which I'm a little nervous about because it's COVID. Like, are people really trying to buy mattresses on the internet, like that they found on Facebook?
Definitely not used.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not even in the wrapper. So I'm gonna tell them
Wouldn't
like brand new. maybe I'm not gonna say whether or not I took that nap on it. That's my business.
I mean, you kind of did though. We're
I,
live,
that's
so
they not gonna see this,
you never know. You never know.
but yeah, I have to get rid of that now. So, and I can't like vacuum seal it back. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. That's the drawback for sure.
That's been my week. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing work and stuff, just coasting. A lot of things happening on the work front. But I did have some time to continue reading. I haven't read Thrawn Ascendancy in a while, so I made a pretty good dent in that this week. So pretty happy about that. Love
Nice.
that character. Um, yeah, been catching up on shows. I finished Raised by Wolves and watched the last episode, the season finale for The Boys. Started watching Utopia, which is pretty good so far.
I'm like a show behind everybody in the Discord.
Yeah.
And I feel so left out. Like y'all were so hyped talking about episode 1 of Utopia, and I was like, dang, too bad I haven't finished Raised by Wolves yet.
Oh man, but anyway, let's get into this show. We got some interesting Batman news this weekend. I mean,
We
not this
did.
weekend, but this past week. Very
Yes.
controversial.
Yes.
That I dropped in the Discord.
Yes.
Unfortunately, since then, I've got some clarity on some things. I can debunk some things on air now. But I'm going to talk about kind of sort of what the news is, and that being centered around our boy Robert Pattinson.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's
I was
your boy.
your boy. That's my boy.
That's your
I thought
boy.
you were talking about Batman specifically. That's your boy. Batman is your
The character, yeah, the character of Batman for sure, but the actor, not so much.
Robert
Not so
Pattinson.
much.
I
Not so
will.
much.
All right. I am
Well, hold on.
definitely
Let me
a
get into
big
it.
fan. Yeah. All right.
Let's break it down. What happened? So apparently, behind the scenes, this is some behind the scenes drama on the set of the Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Last week we got news that Robert Pattinson, well, it wasn't last week, a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
that he contracted COVID-19 and they had to shut down the production of the Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since then, we've gotten news that a well, this week it was announced that I think production began. I want to say last week or recently. Started back up. And anyway, Pattinson, some news came out this week about there being some issues behind the scenes between Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson as far as him not wanting to weight train. And apparently this blew up on set, and it caused some tension and some friction between the director and our star actor. But the rumor was that things got so heated that during a hiatus on set, Matt Reeves actually called Ben Affleck to come in and shoot some scenes while Robert Pattinson was on set to shoot.
Yes.
And those set photos that we got a couple months ago from the Batman, we see a guy who looks like Ben Affleck in the Batman suit riding a motorcycle. That
And
is not
for those who aren't too sure of the photos, they're the photos of Batman that went viral when the motorcycle fell over.
Mhm.
There was a guy riding a motorcycle down like a somewhat windy road, and the Batman fell over, and people were joking about that earlier this year.
correct. So that caused Matt. Of course, once Robert Pattinson found out that happened, he got, according to this rumor, he got upset, went to his trailer, didn't come out. And they had to shut down production again to kind of cool him down, get everything back on track. But apparently they worked some things out and production began again. That was the rumor, and that they would no longer be there would no longer be sequels for the Batman film. It would be a one and done, and they would continue with the Ben Affleck Batman standalone films, which have been rumored to begin filming sometime after the COVID stuff is subsided. Now, there are some things that are true about that, and there's some things that are not true that I've discovered in between Wednesday and today.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being the Ben Affleck thing. Ben Affleck was never on the set of the Batman. He never shot any films. That dude that everyone thought was Ben Affleck is actually a stunt double who just so happens to look a lot like Ben
Then
Affleck, but it's not him. What is true is the Robert Pattinson has he and Matthew Reeves have had a lot of disagreements about this whole weight training thing because Robert Pattinson does not want to weight train for the part. And actually, in a interview in an article back in May, he talked about how when the production shut down at the end of January for the film, um, there were some Zoe Kravitz and his other co-stars were working out behind like every day during the week during the shutdown just to stay in shape. Um, and Robert Pattinson in this article talked about how he didn't like to weight train and he don't want to weight train for the role, and he thinks it's like it's a part of the problem, and this whole body dysmorphia and people having these unrealistic standards on men and women, yada yada yada. That's cool. I get that social
I
justice
don't.
thing, but we're talking about a character
Thank you.
in a film that's a martial artist that is
A literal ninja.
he's a literal ninja. He's supposed to be this way. It is for the role. Now, so before we now and so let's go back because this isn't the first time that happened. Um, Before the shooting began for the Batman and they were signing contracts, it was in his contract that he was going to weight train to get toned. Like he didn't need to put on too much weight. Like they were going to try to keep his frame, but just to tone up a bit, look a little bit more musculature so that he would look like he's a martial artist. Of course, it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
To which he signed and agreed. And apparently, when he showed up on set, he hadn't done any of the exercise and like he hadn't trained, he hadn't done any of the physical training. He basically looked like what he did when he signed the contract, and they were kind of pissed about that because one, he and the other co-stars who also had to do things like Zoe Kravitz, who's playing Catwoman, she signed this contract as well, and she had before prior to production beginning started working out, so she was already in shape for the role, and he was the only one, and he's the star. He's the only one that wasn't in shape, and so there was some friction created based off of that. And then later, once COVID shut down, he does agree after the studio talks to him and the director, and they come to some sort of agreement. He hires a personal trainer, and he begins to work out. And then COVID happens, shut down in January. And during the shutdown, he fires his personal trainer, and like he does not work out between basically February and June or July, whenever the production resumed on the Batman project. So all of the gains that he made, he pretty much lost, and they were very pissed about that. Understandably so.
I understand what he has to say about body dysmorphia, and and what am I trying to say? Like, unless there is a scene where the Batman is not going to be clothed, I understand him not wanting to train for that. But on the other hand, why sign that contract in the first place? Like, have people who are just known for not being fit, i.e., Chris Pratt, who plays Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy, who we know from what is that, Parks and Rec, from being just a funny, like, husky dude.
Yeah, he's a comedian.
Who still not necessarily got super ripped, but toned up his body for that role. Like, if they can do that, then I don't understand why Robert can. I also don't understand the point of signing on for a role if you're not really interested in taking it. Why sign that contract if you don't want to do that? So I do know that rumors are crazy, and they are just that, rumors, but there are truth to rumors in a way. So he signed a contract. We know he signed that contract to Tone, and we know that he is not Tone. I want to know the reason. Is it truly because he just doesn't feel like it, or was there something else that happened behind the scenes that we don't know about? Because to me, it's almost, and I am a Robert Pattinson fan, so this might be me just wanting to be on his side a little bit, but I just don't want to think that he's that stupid.
Um, I would say so his argument for this is that because he can execute the physical um the scenes, uh he can actually do the scenes, like, and he uh whatever is required of him physically he can execute. That's his argument for why he doesn't need to weight train. But that's not really the reason why they want him to weight train. They want him to weight train so that he looks like he is a martial artist that
Right.
can fight these super villains that, that the Batman's going to have to face. Like, it's part of the character. And then to your point, it's a contractual obligation. It's a part of the role. It's a part of what you're taking on. So it is logically the expectation that you would do that. Like, you can't just omit certain parts of a contract
Just because you
you
like,
don't agree. Like, if you didn't agree with it, then negotiate that before signing, or back down from the project. Like, bow out. I really don't understand his stance and why he took this position. Um, Given what we know about the character of Batman, like, even Christian Bale, I would say Christian Bale and Robert Pattinson have about the same frame.
yes,
Christian Bale looked fit and he looked like a martial artist. Like, I don't know how many of the scenes and how many of the stunts he actually did himself, but I do know that he looked like he could do that physically. He looked like he was, when he fought Bane and when he fought like all these groups of villains, like, he looked like he could handle um all of that, the stunts and the beatings that he was taking during these fights. Like, it looked cool, it looked real. And then you got Ben Affleck on the other hand, who physically fits the comic book version of Batman. Like, he's
yes,
wide, he's
big,
tall.
wide,
That
yeah,
dude looks like, like, I'm sure he did some weight training, but he didn't really need it. Like, other than maybe if he needed to tone down to get some abs definition or what have you. But he's got the size already to get people
even
into.
though he wasn't like perfectly cut. Like when we saw him in it, what was it, Justice League, where his shoulder was dislocated and Wonder Woman had to set it and help him.
Yeah,
We saw a lot of his body in that scene, and he was not, your quote unquote like perfectly cut dude. Like, he looked strong, but he was also playing like a more mature Batman, and
yeah,
so he wasn't perfect. I feel like there's information missing here, and I don't know as fans if we'll ever get it, but there's got to be more because that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, why
yeah.
sign the contract if you're not willing to do it? That I don't get.
I agree. I mean, unless they thought, and it might be just a thing where he felt like, they would look past it and they would be able to get over it. Like, and he'd just show up, do the role, and because he could execute any of the stunts that he needed to perform, that they would just go, okay, whatever.
Also, his ex-girlfriend, FKA Twigs, works out every day on her stripper pole thing that she does online, and she's more.
Hey,
And
that's true.
I'm just trying to figure out, Robert, like, what's going on here? What's the excuse? If
Yeah,
Twigs could do it, you could do it. She's probably way more fit than he could ever be right now.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
And what's that? Like long like pole thingy? It's not a sword, but it's just like a stick that people work with. It's like longer than a sword. Um Maybe like this. All right, well, do you know what I'm talking about if you don't know the name?
Yeah.
All right.
I know
She was training with that too. She's fully
yeah, she was training with the Chinese pike.
yes, okay, that thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's your excuse, Robert?
Yeah, then you got a staff too.
What's good, JBM?
What's going on? Yeah, we talking about the Batman stuff. Um, you might JBM may be joining us a little bit later. We'll definitely be on past 9. So But yeah, I would say it's no different. Like, yeah, he's this. I don't know what the issue is. Even uh, it's a crazy stance to take, in my opinion. From it, it seems like a very um odd stance, especially since it's health related. Like it wasn't like he was gonna have to take protein to beef up. Like it was just him a matter of him getting into physical shape, which I would think that would be a good thing because it's like you are making yourself healthy. Like he could have negotiated like the type of exercises that he would have done. Like if you don't want to weight train, there are other alternatives that he could have done with his physical trainer that wouldn't have involved weights, that would allow him to build muscle without doing much no protein and no weightlifting. Like, and he could have, there are options, like, which is why it's a strange stance to take. But I mean, that's his opinion. That's the hill he wants to die on. So
the level of strangeness just makes me want to know what other info are we missing, because it doesn't make sense to me. There's info missing here.
oh yeah, for sure. We still don't have the full picture, even with the clarification of the Ben Affleck thing, of Ben Affleck being on set. It's still not making sense. And I also want to say that this is I would, looking at the timeline of everything between January and that article coming out in May, and then them resuming production on set. Like if we think about what happens in between that, right? I can see where some of this is sort of blending together, like this rumor inflated, but there's a lot of truth within the rumor. It just may not be how it was formulated on Wednesday. And I think that if you look at the launch of HBO Max, the announcement of the Snyder Cut, all of this is happening in between. Like all these negotiations are happening basically at the beginning of the year. They're planning. We knew that HBO Max was planning to launch in May, which means they were probably discussing the Snyder Cut, which means it brought Zack Snyder back on board to negotiate what that would look like, because AT&T is acquired by this point the DC property from Universal, and now they're shifting, they're changing the game, they're taking this ship in a whole new direction, and then now they want to bring in Zack Snyder to do his cut of the film, the original cut of the film, which means that they will probably be doing some reshoots and definitely a lot of post-production work, negotiating a contract with him, and then now they got to get the actors back on board. So that now they got to get Ben Affleck back, they got to get Gal Gadot, and what's my Aquaman, Jason Momoa,
Ray
Fisher, Ezra Miller, and Henry Cavill. You got to get all of them back on board. So everyone basically is Team Snyder. And at this point, the Matt Reeves Batman was going to be the flagship Batman. Then contract negotiations work out for the Snyder Cut. All the actors are back on board. That means Ben Affleck is back on the table. And now we also learn in that hiatus that he's also interested not only in returning as Batman for the Snyder Cut, but also coming back to the character long term to do some other independent movies, which is why we got the announcement that his movies will be coming out. We got a Keaton Batman in some iteration, whether it be on Flashpoint with the Flash or with some other crossover. None of the details have been released on that, so we don't know how all that's going to work. And now we've got the Pattinson Batman, which has been a trilogy has been scheduled production wise for that. And now we got Ben Affleck back on the table. So like, if there's issues with the Pattinson and Matt Reeves getting along, and now the Snyder Cut's back on the table, let's say hypothetically, the Snyder Cut is phenomenal, blows everyone's mind, and everyone's hyped for more of that version of these characters. Where does that put the Pattinson Batman in the pecking order? because if people are like, yo, we want to see more of the Ben Affleck Batman, we want to see more Henry Cavill Superman, like all these characters from Justice League, we want to see more stories from that, then I would imagine that that would put the Pattinson trilogy lower on the totem pole, and Affleck's Batman would probably rise on that hypothetical production leaderboard, right? So maybe there are some question marks around how many sequels they're going to do for the Pattinson Batman. Like maybe they're holding out and them pushing it out to March 2022 for the release of this film. If it comes out and it has a mild reception, and then they don't go into production for any sequels, release the Ben Affleck version of Batman, and it does better than the Pattinson film, well, of course, those sequels are going to get pushed back further because they're going to push more of the Ben Affleck version of Batman. So I think that there's some truth layered in between this rumor and this story, but what it wasn't all how it happened apparently. But I can see how things behind the scenes at DC AT&T are starting to shift a little bit. And then I also saw that in an article that the Snyder Cut might be ready by January of 2021.
I definitely think they need to release the Snyder Cut ASAP. Like I don't want them. What was the original date that they said?
May of next year.
No,
I think I wouldn't be surprised and they said it was going to go to HBO Max, so I wouldn't be surprised if they can rush production. Like if they don't need to do any more principal photography for that film, is all post. If they can do a mad scramble to get all that finished by the end of the year, so that it's ready to go to HBO Max, and never mind, it wasn't January, but the quarter one of the fiscal year of 2021 was when it would be ready. So it should be ready to go by then. If they got no more principal production done, if they're finished with that side of it, I can see that Snyder Cut being ready by quarter one of the fiscal year. That would make a lot of sense to me to put that out. And then if it's well received, it's going to create a lot of buzz for that. And in light of that news coming out, it kind of makes sense as to why the Pattinson version has been pushed all the way to 2022, because they could have just said, end of the year 2021. But if they're going to give the Snyder Cut a full year on HBO Max to see how it performs, and then possibly the Wonder Woman movie and all of that, like that whole DC universe, the Snyderverse, give that space. Yeah, like I can totally see why that gets pushed back, and like depending on how much hype and buzz it generates for the Snyderverse, then I can see that Pattinson verse getting a little.
I can see it too, but here's my issue with all of this. We already know from my months of complaining about Batman that it never made sense to me that they were working on multiple Batman universes at the same time, right? I thought it was stupid from the jump. But since they've done it, I personally think it's ridiculous that one film that's in a different universe should affect the other film at all. At this point, y'all chose to do it and you need to see it through. And I feel like the Robert Pattinson stuff, like that's just contractual agreements. They can figure that out. I feel like it's more of, oh, well, now we don't know what's going to be up with the Justice League universe. And to me, I don't think they should not be able to coexist at all. Although I thought it was dumb to begin with, which I still low-key think that is due. They've decided to start it and they need to go through with it. And the reason I think they can coexist is the Joker film that came out with Joaquin Phoenix. That was a darker DC film. I would argue that it's the darkest DC film I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I think that level of darkness is what they were going for in the Pattinson film. But I also appreciate, what they have going on with Shazam and the Justice League, Batman, all of those over there. And I feel like those are two separate energies that can coexist. They're separate films, they're separate franchises. There's nothing wrong. So the fact that now they're waiting on the Snyder Cut to see how that performs, and that'll determine whether or not they go forth with a patent sequel. To me, That's ridiculous. Y'all should have had that conversation beforehand. Now it's too late. Just make the films because it's going to look stupid now because regardless, I think they learned their lesson from the original Justice League film. I don't think we're going to see a bad DC film for a while. I think they've learned their lesson, and the next few films that are coming out that are going to be good. We saw that trailer that they released for Batman when Robert Pattinson was beating that dude down. You can't tell me that didn't look hard. I don't foresee that movie being bad in any way. I personally think, regardless of how great that movie is, the Justice League, Batman, and all that, the Wonder Woman, all of those films are going to outperform it because they're lighter, more family oriented, and there's just more content there. But that would be like a Marvel Universe film. Like those are going to outperform any X-Men film that's coming out right now, even a good X-Men film, because there's just more content there for Marvel. That doesn't mean that the X-Men film wouldn't be good. And so they kind of need to just like separate the two. Y'all chose to have two separate universes going on. I mean, if you want to count the TV shows, you might as well say 3. Y'all chose to have 45 different universes coexisting. You need to follow them through. Let's not have one film dictate how you're going to handle the other film. It's annoying, and as a fan, I'm tired because now they're flip-flopping on their decision makings. I finally settled down and accepted excuse me that they were gonna have.
She needs some milk.
They were gonna have 3 different Batman films, and now, like, they want to switch up on it. It's annoying. I'm tired.
No. Okay, so let me clarify that because they're not at all moving away from the multiverse at all.
No, I don't think they're moving away from the multiverse. Now they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with the Pattinson one. They're absolutely going to go forward with the multiverse.
Yeah, I personally don't feel like they're going to cancel the planned trilogy for the Matt Reeves Batman trilogy with Pattinson. I don't think it's going to get canceled. I just think I think they're going to adjust the priority of it in the production queue. Like, I think that they may rearrange some things based on how well the Snyder Cut does. Because if it doesn't repair the damage for the fan base, like if the fans aren't satisfied with it, then the Pattinson universe stays where it is in the priority. Starting 2022, we'll get that Pattinson movie, and then the next one probably be a year or 2 after that, and then a year or 2 after that. So, and then they'll sprinkle in the Snyderverse stuff between those years. Or if it does well, then I think the 22 Batman will get that, and then the following year we'll get a Batfleck Batman movie, and then maybe some more Snyder Cut stuff, and then maybe it might be a 2 to 3 year gap between the Pattinson sequels instead of like maybe a 1 to 2 year gap.
The year Black Panther came out, Marvel released 3 films in the same universe. Mm-hmm. I don't see a reason why DC can't do the same, even if they're releasing films that are from mixed universes. So to me, that's just still like, although I understand the Snyder Cut coming out is going to have an effect on things. As a fan who's not as deep in it as you are, it looks like they're flip-flopping and like they don't want to go forward on it. And I think they need to, first of all, get a little bit more tight-lipped in house, because having these rumors come out, I mean, I know we don't have anything to do but time right now, but having more rumors out right now than content isn't looking good at all.
Yeah, and this is where it becomes problematic with a multiverse, because now you've got multiple creative heads running different projects, and now instead of the flip side of Marvel having one streamlined continuity with one creative voice, basically, which is Kevin Feige, that is the start and stop of any conversation. Like, it's easier for him to control and contain rumors than it is going to be for DC to do the same thing, because they've got so many different projects going on with different creative heads that aren't necessarily creating stories that are connected. So like it really is going to depend on the showrunner and the whoever is in charge creatively of each of these universes to keep these rumors under control. Um, that's where the tough thing is. But the good thing is, for the most part, most of these rumors aren't going to make it out to the everyday casual fan.
Mm-hmm.
So like most of the casual fans are not even going to know that this is even a issue behind the scenes. Like same thing kind of happened with the Mandalorian with Pedro Pascal last year for season one. After the success of it, he wanted to have his face shown more um, as the Mandalorian. So there were some issues behind the scenes.
That don't even make sense.
Exactly. But see, like, here's the thing: because the show was successful and the format worked, like this may have happened in real time a couple weeks. Problem is, Pascal he raises his concerns with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. It gets elevated to the executives over at Lucasfilm. They sit down, they negotiate, work everything out. Everything is peachy now. But we learn about it like over the past couple months. And because we heard about it over these past few months and it's recent, we're thinking as outsiders that, oh, this is happening now, when in reality it happened sometime last year and it's been squashed and there are no issues at all. So like all of these things may have happened. We don't know time wise when all of this happened, when all of these decisions were made, because a lot of it is in house and a lot of it is being kept out of the public light. And then at some point in time, it leaks through the grapevine and we hear about it. And so like there could be, who knows, Pattinson maybe have hired a personal trainer and is working out, and after the film comes out, maybe maybe since he's been working out, he is enjoying his workouts, and like a lot of things could have happened in between now and whenever this alleged dispute happened, and things could be good or they could be futile at the moment. Could be still on ice. So we don't know, but we'll see. It is, to me, it's interesting that they pushed it to March 2022 and that the Snyder Cut got bumped. It may be getting bumped up to an earlier date on the HBO Max platform. So
I also think it's important to note that COVID-19 has probably more to do with the pushing back than the Snyder Cut does. And it's crazy with all this news. Like, it's easy to forget that COVID-19 is so bad and is going to be so bad that we are not going to have a normal 2021. And it honestly does not make sense for movies to start coming out until late 2021.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the main issue right now is not necessarily what the plan is for the next film. There are so many films that are not coming out that we are going to have blockbuster after blockbuster releases for like 6 straight months once movie theaters open again.
Yeah, which actually could transition us into the next topic, because that would be on topic. And we'll get, before we do, I'm ready to move on if you're ready to move on to the next topic, which is the closures.
I can't believe we spent 40 minutes on Batman, who didn't deserve it.
That was quite a rumor.
So, it definitely was. I didn't realize what time it was.
Yeah, what's up, Ma?
Miss Cooper.
Yeah,
I love pronouncing his name again.
He did. All right, so back on the topic of delays and closures, the Cinemax, is it Cinemax? The Regal Group, Regal Cinemas announced that they're closing their U.S. theaters, I believe, indefinitely last week. And being one of the largest U.S. chains, that's very concerning because of the lack of blockbusters in theaters and the sheer lack of people going to theaters, even places where they're open and allowed to. A lot of people just aren't going to the theaters because of COVID. Like, the public spaces inside enclosed areas like a movie theater are not just not worth the risk. And then on top of that, you've got the transitioning of entertainment to from a more public space like a theater to more private internet spaces for streaming. Like you got Disney Plus, HBO Max, you got Netflix, Hulu, all of those platforms, which is, created, it's forcing the movie theater industry to evolve. And now COVID is forcing it to evolve rapidly. Uh, because one, people are like, well, we know in a few months, even if the movie comes out in theaters, it'll be available in a few months on one of these streaming platforms, or I can buy it on DVD or whatever, however they consume the content once it's ready to go to home. And then basically all of the major blockbusters for 2020 have been pushed to Q3 and 4 of 2021. Like there won't be any major films coming out blockbuster wise until the end of next year, possibly, depending on how COVID goes.
Yeah. Tenet performed so badly. I haven't even seen it yet. And I was hyped about that movie. So,
right. And Tenet was kind of sort of like the real test and flagship for the theaters, for the studios, because Nolan one does really good overseas. His films do good basically, well, domestically and overseas. Like he is a director that usually gets a lot of people to the theater. So the fact that, in Europe and places where they've gotten ahead of the curve of COVID, and they've been, allowed to go out into public spaces, and for a while now, longer than most places in the US have, the fact that a lot of those people didn't go to the theater still to go watch the movie, and it underperformed overseas, that really made a lot of people pause and hesitate, especially here in the States. A lot of studios were like, okay, well, if this isn't performing, I don't know if this movie, if it's worth it to even try putting our blockbusters out, because they don't really perform well overseas in the first place. Like the Marvel stuff, Marvel makes all of its money pretty much domestically, and then they have pretty average performance overseas, monetarily. So if the only place they can release it is overseas, it's going to pretty much not perform well at all. So it's not even worth the risk. And a lot of studios feel the same about their projects, which has forced theaters to do what Regal did and close indefinitely. And I think we'll see a lot more, possibly, studios or theaters announce that they're going to close their doors indefinitely between now and probably 2022.
As a moviegoer, I'm not trying to go up in there. It's just a big old COVID ball to me. If anything, I'm surprised that the announcement wasn't made sooner. I'm more worried about like those jobs and things,
absolutely,
than anything else. But one thing this country needs is to sit down somewhere. Like the fact that there are nightclubs open but the movie theater is closed doesn't make much sense to me. In my opinion, they should both be closed. So yeah, it's a decision that sucks because of jobs, but I personally think it's the right move as far as COVID goes. So,
well, we just got a guest co-host joining us late in the stream, but always better late than never. Somebody we haven't seen in a while. Everybody make some noise. Lou, what's going on?
What's going on with y'all?
My man.
Hi. We've missed you.
Our producer extraordinaire is back. Ladies and gentlemen, how you been, sir?
Been all right, going through trials and tribulations of getting all your wisdom teeth yanked out at once.
Oh.
But now this mouth is functioning again, so.
Do you have any videos of yourself high afterwards, or did we miss out on that?
Yeah, you missed out on it. I was, according to my coworker who picked me up, dropped me off. I was at his place for a while. He's like, I ain't saying anything crazy, but I was definitely out of it because my coworker and his wife both work with me. His wife knew that I was supposed to be going to their place after. Harry, he did not know, and so like I went. And then after, he was like, all right, where you need to go now? And it was like, pick up the medication, drop me off home. He was dropping me off home. My mom called me. And my mom was like, what are you leaving him there for? He's supposed to come to your house. And then like when he told me I was supposed to go to your house, I was like, yeah, I'm supposed to go to your house. He's like, how is that supposed to happen if I just put you on your couch? And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
So y'all had to go back to his house.
Oh my god.
Yep. But like if my mom didn't call at the right time, he would have just left me there and I would have woke up and just been like, yo, why am I at my house?
His wife would have made him go back and get you.
True.
His wife would be like, you did not just leave him alone on the couch by himself. That is hilarious.
A mother's instincts are undefeated. Like
true facts.
That junk is crazy. Like they always know when to call, even before you do. It's wild.
Her spirit was like, no.
She knew something, bro. There was a disturbance in the force, and she was like, nah, let me check on my son.
That is hilarious.
I would have been so lost because everything before me waking up after that first long sleep is a blur. So like it's patchy. Like I definitely, the first thing I remember is not waking up in a chair, is being in the car with my coworker driving me home. And I was like, I hope they didn't tell me anything important, because if they did, I have no idea what they said.
That is hilarious.
Oh man.
Well, I'm glad you're better.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, still like a week away from firm, solid foods, but tooth progress.
So we apple saucing it right now.
If applesauce wasn't the only Apple product that I don't eat, I'd be applesaucing it. But you know,
what
ice cream? You know, I eat apple pie. I eat a lot of apples.
It's the texture.
The consistency. Yeah. Yep.
It's the texture. Yeah. That's what. Yeah, I can see that.
Applesauce is great,
bro. Okay, but now if you think about the texture of applesauce, it's kind of disturbing.
No,
you just kind of look past it. No.
I love applesauce.
It's kind of like getting like a bowl full of pulp, and then just adding a little bit of orange juice to it.
No,
that's basically applesauce.
No, and you're crazy for even making that comparison. That is not at all what it's like. It's not
that the texture of it is kind of disturbing. Like I think about when I eat applesauce, I think about the texture, but it is good. Well, I don't eat the plain applesauce. Like I get the cinnamon flavored applesauce.
Shout out to Mott's, the unsweetened blueberry applesauce.
You eat unsweetened applesauce?
I love applesauce. I'm not playing with y'all. Any brand, I don't care. Like I love applesauce so much that I'm thoroughly offended that you don't like it, Lou. And it's to the point where I'm feeling
it's the bottom of Apple products. Like I drink the juice, I drink the cider.
Bottom.
The apples themselves are great. Well, apple pie, apple fritters.
First of all, the apples themselves are the bottom.
What? You're insane.
You must only eat Red Delicious. You was eating the Red Delicious.
You have in
the cafeteria. See, this is where never go get some other apples.
Nah, see, this is where she's from New York. This is where she don't get healthy food.
First of all, don't disrespect me because
you get the fresh
I'm
pick
from
apples.
New Jersey.
Every year,
you'll get the fresh pick apples.
No,
That's
sir.
all that is.
Do you know where apples grow? You can absolutely go apple picking in Jersey and New York City. I get fresh apples every year, and you know what I do?
But see, the air quality and the soil quality in the north compared to the south is a little different.
Listen, what movie was I watching? 28 Days Later. I was watching 28 Days Later, and in the film...
Way to bring it back to zombies. I like it.
Always, can't help myself. So... in one of the scenes, of course, the world has ended basically, and they're what's the word I'm looking for? Scavenging. Whatever they're doing, they're looking
scavenging is a good one.
They find a grocery store. All of the fresh food is spoiled except for what? A big old case of apples.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense, but you know what? I feel like it could happen. Demon fruit, applesauce is best. I'm so offended right now. I should be a jar of applesauce for Halloween. That's probably a costume. I can find it.
That sounds like you're punishing yourself.
Why? I love applesauce. I would love to wear it.
Lord have mercy. Anyway, moving on. Lou, have you been listening to the conversation up to this point?
Nope, I'm just tuning in.
So we were talking about how basically because of COVID-19, movie theaters are closing.
Oh yeah,
yep. And then the Regal Group.
Soul is not going to be in theaters. The Pixar movie.
I kind of,
Yeah.
I'm. Why can't they wait? Although I
I'm not
understand.
gonna lie to you though, because like those Pixar animated films, I do look forward to seeing in theaters.
My family, even if I don't go home on Thanksgiving, because normally they come out Thanksgiving weekend, either the Pixar movie or the annual Disney movie, we still go every year on Thanksgiving weekend. So it's a family thing that we ain't gonna get to do this year.
Mhm.
Is there a planned movie coming out next Thanksgiving that they don't want to just sit on it?
Yeah, Disney plans out. Disney and Pixar both plan out their next movies for like the next 3 to 4 years at a time.
Yeah,
So
most studios, and this is where the COVID thing is throwing everybody off because of their production schedules. Like they've got movies scheduled and slated for to begin production at certain points throughout the year for, like Lou said, like the next 2 to 4, sometimes 5 years. Um, and now that with COVID, like the production schedule itself has been pushed back, which also pushes back release dates for movies. So like it's a train wreck for the studios right now with the scheduling and production and everything. Could you imagine, Lou, if you were a producer at a studio right now?
yeah, no, it's not fun times.
Oh man.
Honestly, although I definitely understand the stress behind the scenes and trying to figure out these schedules and stuff, I think the closing of the movie theaters just makes sense. The only people I'm really sad for are the employees. But at the end of the day, I don't even think it's safe for them to be there. Too many people coming in and out, sitting down. If anything, why did it take so long for them to make that decision?
I low key hope this takes down AMC.
You got AMC beef?
AMC, yeah, AMC, like a large reason movie theaters can just charge whatever they want is because AMC went around and bought big and small chains. Like, oh, you got multiple theaters, we want that.
Mm-hmm.
They killed Movie Pass. That's definitely beef. They killed Movie Pass for no reason. I was going to the movies every weekend. There's like 3 theaters within a 5 mile radius of me, which meant that I also got a lot of smaller indie films. And I was like, oh, for $10 a month to swipe, easy money. Then AMC was like, oh, we gonna do the same thing, except you could see 3D movies for $20. We're not even gonna make any money off of it. We know it's about to kill Movie Pass, so let's do it.
Yeah, I'm seeing AMC announced on this week that they're opening more theaters.
They're just
So
trying to
that just
spread
goes to
COVID.
show you. Yeah, they're to Lou's point, just to reinforce his point, they're opening. So
We know which one is left and which one is right.
yeah, definitely. If you want to politicize it,
Yep.
yeah, you can absolutely see where they stand
Wow,
on
Yep.
these matters.
that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's the main thing for me is definitely the employees, because there are a lot of people that are employed by the movie theaters that just abruptly lost their jobs. So definitely hope that there's something, and probably not because of the delay of the relief package in Congress. They're not going to get any additional help from the government between now and then. So that really is what hurts and stings at the end of the day.
I
Yeah.
pray that they can come back and that AMC doesn't buy all the empty theaters.
Yes.
Yeah,
If AMC buys all those theaters, those ticket prices are going to be $30 a ticket. Although I will say, at some point, raising the prices to astronomical levels, they're gonna have to see that they're killing the film industry in some way. Like, there's got to be a price ticket that's too high where people are like, I'm not going, especially now that, all these streaming sites are out. Like,
Yeah.
they go too far.
well, they'll outprice if they outprice themselves. Well, if they do continue to raise prices, they're going to outprice the streaming services. So they're going to end up basically defeating themselves if they raise the
Yeah.
prices too much.
They've
Because you
had
will get to a point where people are going to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to the theater, like I'll just wait for it to drop on Netflix or any of these streaming services before I go spend X amount of dollars in the theater.
Yeah.
especially if the film is not made for a particular like theater experience.
Yeah,
Like if you can catch it at home and get the same thing, it's like, okay, I'm definitely not paying all this money.
yeah, yeah, that's the other thing, like the theaters really, even after, so once we return to normalcy, they've really got to evaluate what this theatrical experience looks like going forward, because even without COVID, they're getting a lot of pressure from streaming services because
Yeah.
more studios are opening, are start creating their own streaming services. Eventually, I can see we'll get to a point where you'll begin to bundle streaming services for a flat rate, and once that happens, like they'll be facing real competition um with those streaming services from a release standpoint, because you got platforms like HBO Max. They're putting a lot of pressure on everybody, like with the amount of original content that they're
Oh
pushing out
man.
as quality. Like they're doing really good. Like if the wild part of it to me is everyone predicted every other streaming service to be like competitive with Netflix, but HBO Max is the one that can actually take the throne for sure.
That takes us to the next topic too,
Which
With
is
yeah.
which is I slept on Wait Raised by Wolves, and I'm sorry.
Oh, have you seen
oh,
that
I
yet?
haven't peeped. I have not peeped.
Okay, you. I'm not going to like yell at you the way I was yelled out by several people, but I will say as we know, I'm a horror fan. I love anything Ridley Scott. I love the Alien franchise, and I'm only on episode 4, but the show is great. It's definitely a mind f, and it's worth the watch. Like it's, I don't think I've seen anything like this ever. I can't compare it to another show. I can't, and it's worth it. Like yeah. So, but I know there's a lot of shows right now that we got. It seems like every week there's a whole new show that it's completely finished. So I'm not going to pressure you to watch it today. I'm just going to say before 2020 ends, you might want to watch that.
Right. It'll be somewhere in the queue. Don't know exactly where yet, but it'll be somewhere in the queue.
I was saying earlier that like I'm a whole like show behind everybody in the Discord because they finished Raised by Wolves and they finished The Boys and now they're watching Utopia and I'm still trying to finish Raised
I
by
watched the first two Utopias. I wasn't really feeling it.
Yeah, yeah, I can see it. Like, I wouldn't rave about it the way Mark was raving about it, but it's interesting in its own way. But yeah, I can see why you wouldn't be that interested in the series, because it.
And yeah, and now because we have so much content, I'll watch the first two, and if I'm not feeling it, I'm like, I'm not about to press through because I
Yeah,
still haven't seen Raised by Wolves.
Can
yeah,
I
like
say
there's no, the thing with shows too now is like you've got to, within I'd say the first 2 to 3 episodes, you got to have a major type of plot twist reveal or something in order to keep people captivated. Like Lovecraft Country has been doing a good job of it every episode. Like either you're going to introduce a new element or you're going to completely twist something or go in a direction that people weren't expecting. This show kind of stagnates a little bit on as far as not delivering shock value in many ways. Like it hits the same beats repeatedly over and over again, and while it's entertaining, it isn't the most uh, compelling, in my opinion.
Right.
can I just say that Mark explains things a little differently than anybody, and especially after that Lovecraft convo y'all had.
You can definitely say that.
I don't know if Mark's opinions are trustworthy at this point. Shout out to everybody in the Discord, including Mackie Boomers.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been doing this for 9 years. Coop been doing that longer than me, so we got experience.
Yeah, we got Mark experience.
I was like, what?
That's a valid take. That's a valid take. Yeah. The way his brain processes things, I'm like, all right, cool, Mark. I can see that, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll wholeheartedly agree with you, but I can see why you kind of think that way. And to me, the show was kind of like I made the X-Files analogy only because I know tonally it's not the X-Files. X-Files a lot more serious, but as far as like the conspiracy goes within Utopia, it's pretty much like X-Files.
I can see that.
Because you can see like it's like, all right, there's a huge government conspiracy. There are these viruses, and I'm comparing the viruses to aliens, and then the government conspiracy, of course, is comparable. You've got the biggest difference where tonally it shifts is it's dark comedy, and then like the characters are working from the outside in instead of the inside out. So of course that shifts a lot of the tones and elements of the story based off, positioning of, where and how these characters have to operate. So it's more like they're working from the outside in, as opposed to Mulder and Scully who were working from the inside out. That makes sense. But you still got some of the same types of characters within the story that are feeding the main characters information. There are these groups and elements that they trust and these elements that they can't trust. There are a bunch of shady figures that are clearly deceiving the public, that kind of sort of the heroes are onto, but it hadn't been revealed as to, if they're really doing it or not. And then I think one of the things that they could shock me on is the reveal of the father. And that's all I'll say without getting into any spoilers. But if they don't shock me with the reveal of the father, then I'll probably lose interest in the show. I'm not going to lie. They need to do a big plot twist with that.
Honestly, your description of not being completely invested because of the current decision making makes me not want to watch it.
I wouldn't rely on Mark's hype of the show to watch the show.
Got you.
I would kind of tone it back a little bit and then let it be what it is, and then you be the judge.
Copy.
Because I think I went into it with a little bit more. I think I was overhyping the show based off of his description of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Anyway, back to Raised by Wolves.
It's lit.
So
and
you're
the camera.
Yep.
You're back.
I am back.
Lou hasn't seen it, so I don't want to give too much detail. But it's amazing. Mother is I saw a scene in episode 4 that makes me feel a little bit better about her, but I would argue that Mother is equally as invested in her idea of the future as David was at the end of Prometheus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lou, I would say that this is a serial format of the Prometheus franchise. It's a serialized version of Prometheus.
But I think time-wise, I'm starting to feel like this takes place way in the future, like after Prometheus. You finished the show, so you
finished the show.
No. But as of right now, times table wise, it's feeling like it's way past it. As far as like, there's talks of religion in the show. That wasn't really a conversation in any of the Alien films. Not in the way that it is in the show. The only film I could think of that had a strong conversation about religion was Alien 3. That's the one where she was stuck on like the prison planet with the monk dudes.
Right.
But I'd say that this is different from that.
Yeah, there are connections to his other properties, and that's all I'll say on that.
But
And it's if your suspicions of certain like of connections within like what you get some confirmation on later in the series closer, and it's really a lot. There's a lot of teasers throughout each episode, but the bigger reveals are saved for the end, which is a good. And yeah, I'll say it. That's all I'll say. I won't get into it because it to me it was a worthwhile watch. And it stands on its own. Like it does stand alone, but you can tell it's a part of his universe.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like I don't think I needed to see Alien to enjoy this. If anything,
no, it's a standalone thing.
Yeah.
But if you've seen any of Ridley Scott's work, you'll know that there are some things that are tonally the same, and it fits well within his universe.
Right.
Also talking about the androids, even not just Mother but Father also. Even though Mother is, I don't want to say more advanced than Father, I would say that she has more capabilities than he does. But in general, they seem just on both sides better than David ever has been on screen. So that's what's making me feel like it's the future, because either it's the past and they took the androids too far and they scaled them back and made David, or it's the future because they realized David had flaws, so let's go bigger and go better, which in my opinion, they didn't necessarily get rid of some of his flaws when they created Mother. But I also like how children are a big part of the show. And within the films itself, there's always been a serious theme of like childhood, like from the first film that I think had Newt in it. And then also the pregnancy that was in Alien 2, that was like a serious theme. And then, well, if anything, like giving birth, from the aliens popping out of the chest to the woman with the red hair having to physically give birth to an alien in Prometheus. That's always like a serious theme within the show, but I would say it's elevated to me within the series, but it's elevated in the show. Like children are our future and they are really important to the series. And that's dope to see. Because I will say with alien films a lot, they don't really, or like space stories, they forget about children a lot. Like there's no kids in the future. It's just adults, if you really think about it, as far as like how films go. And in the Alien franchise,
It's just adults and colonization.
Yeah, just adults and just we just gonna wipe out all the whatever's here. We're gonna take over, and there's nothing else ever. And in this franchise,
no people of color, colonization,
yes,
and just either
they have sex, so you can include sex. There's just never kids from it.
Like either some savage alien creatures that are like barbaric but technologically advanced, and or they're inferior technologically, but they make up for it in raw physicality, like in what's the franchise? What's James Cameron Avatar? That's your difference.
Yeah.
He made he made alien Native Americans.
Yeah. And although in a way there is a little, there's definitely some colonization hints in the show. They try to show in some ways both sides of it. And just the fact that there are children, they are a huge part of the show, and they're important to the story, to me, I think is dope.
Yeah, the only people you could really call heroes in this story are the children. and that's about it. Only because of the innocence. That's about it.
I'm
Like-
so done with adults. I'm done with adults in our reality as well. Like just all the old people. I'm sick and tired of old people. I'm tired of them. We need to start talking to the kids. Like Gen Z. Is it Gen Z that's next? Like I love those freaking kids, even though they're like 18 or whatever. Like we need to start listening to them. Forget about these old people. So yeah.
But the wild thing is they're already forming opinions about how the older generations are running the world, basically, that are for the most part anti the establishment, which is good.
Yeah.
Same about the show.
Yeah, and it kind of it does mirror reality in that way, which is always good.
Yeah, I can say I've watched the show. Like, yo, that makes it like that. Okay, imagine instead of like a necromancer, like it's like the president. That's how I've been thinking about stuff, and it's nice. Yeah. So, Lou, for things like that, I think you would enjoy the show for just the background, deep thought, extra stuff. Like you would take it further than I have. I know that for a fact.
I would definitely like to hear his take on the show.
Yeah.
Once he starts watching it.
Yes, I look forward to those messages in the Discord.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see
Yeah.
about
I can't wait to get the number of spoiler marked comments about the show in the Discord.
Yo, that is like one of the most clutch Discord functions.
It really is, yo. It really is.
And without giving spoilers, I'm only on episode 4, but I am really disappointed with Father on the show. And I will say, as much as Ridley Scott and the Alien franchise displays, children and women, they consistently fall off when it comes to Black people. I can't think of an example, maybe except Predator, but was Alien versus Predator a Ridley Scott film? That's an Annihilate thing?
Is Predator his?
Sure.
I don't think that's his.
Yeah, it's not his. So Alien versus Predator, I don't know how that happened.
So
I don't even think he's involved in that.
So
okay.
So as far as Black people goes, like I dislike that Father is a Black man with blue eyes, blonde hair, who is, in my opinion, severely manipulated by Mother and everything that she can do.
That contrast just sounds so aesthetically jarring.
I mean, the character
He looks like a Black person in anime.
Yeah, the character is an android, so at first you excuse their look, but then, like, as I was thinking, actually, my father made me think about that. He referenced you again, Lou, talking about how Black people are portrayed, because my father loves aliens, so I put him on the show. So we've been talking about it every day. He talked about your article again, where you talked about Cyborg, and he brought it up to be that Father looks weak out here. Like, yeah. And so that I would say is discouraging. And I'm hoping that throughout the show, things get better for Father specifically, and that he is portrayed to be stronger than he has been. I don't think if they do that, it won't be because he's the Black man and this is the story that we had planned all along. It's just that's what they were doing, and the character happens to be Black. But the fact that the character is a Black man and this is how he is portrayed bothers the shit out of me. But I'm not saying that as a way to deter you.
I understand. It's like a weird thing, like when you're consuming fiction as a Black person, like sometimes you're like, oh, yo, this is on point. It sucks that they did the Black person dirty, and I got to be here and just sort of eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to stop watching it, but it's starting to get tiring. So, yeah. And I would encourage people to watch it and to be bothered with me. Be upset. And I think it's at some point we're going to have to complain about it enough that change is made. Like, I can just tell there were no Black people involved in this process when it comes
to like there'll be the Black folk that learn the industry and storytelling from people that tell them they don't really matter, and then they get in there and they're like, oh yeah, it seems normal because this happens all the time.
I would say, just based on Ridley Scott's past history with films, I was not anticipating this character to be strong in that regard at all. It would have shocked me had he been, but I came into it kind of like like I normally do. Everything's at 0, and then you just build from there.
Yeah. Also, I love the way that Ridley Scott's films sprinkle in other races. Like the core main race is always going to be white, but like, yeah, there's an Asian baby. Don't worry about why. Just know we got one. We filling that quota. There's a couple Black women. Not too happy with how things are going for them either. But they got their little sprinkles in there. But what's crazy is they boast, in films like this, that the world is going to, be of more mixed race people. But in film, especially about the future, it's still like whiteness.
That makes me think of that definition of Afrofuturism. Like Afrofuturism is the idea that Black people do exist and will continue to exist into the future, where it's like, oh, that sounds like overly simple. And you're like, oh, when you talk about that, it's like to exist in the future is to say that you will continue existing and that you have impacts. So
and then there are far more people of color in the world than there are whites. So naturally, it wouldn't, that how many people would have to get exterminated in order for there to be a predominantly like white population on the planet. Like that's what, like 60-70%, almost 80% of the population.
So
are
this
people
is
of color.
A little bit off topic, but still, this is off topic as far as the show goes, but still on topic as far as the conversation we're having about race. There's a trend going on right now called Blacktober. Basically, illustrators are changing the race of some of their favorite characters to Black people, and they're drawing them. And there's a new drawing each day for the full month of October. And the hashtag on Twitter is Blacktober. A lot of people have been doing this for anime characters, and a tweet went viral after someone did some redraws, and the tweet says, "Anime is supposed to be a perfect world to escape to. Adding Black people to that kind of defeats the point."
Oh wow!
And at first that was my reaction, but as I sat in it, I mean, that should not be surprising to us. That in reality, people do not want to see us at all in any way, shape, or form. Like,
but it's the accidental leap that got me, because anime and Black people is like a thing on the interwebs. Like Black folk can't even cosplay a player that's not Black without doing blackface. Like if I wanted to be Ash Ketchum from Pokemon, so everybody knows, and I dress like Ash Ketchum, there'd be a bunch of folk on the internet be like, you can't dress as Ash.
It's white people who, and the characters aren't white in the first place.
Yeah, it's so like in that way it's expected, but the accidental jump is what got me.
Yeah,
for real.
Yeah. So that being said, it's just, although that's the first way that I've seen it just written so clearly, if you just think about how Black people are portrayed in things about the future in general, I think there's probably way more creators that think like that than we know. And I don't know if all of them think it consciously.
So, wait, that's the first time you've seen that statement?
That's the first time I've seen that statement as far as like anime and TV goes. Not necessarily in general. Of course, there's white people who don't want to see us ever. But I'm talking about like people actually talking about us in film. I've never seen
film and fiction.
In film and fiction, I've never seen or heard a white person say like we don't want no niggas up in here.
That is wild.
Have you seen that?
That's normal. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty common.
I've seen it said. I've seen the product of those words, but I have not seen someone say it. I've not heard someone say it.
So where on the internet were you when Donald Glover said that he wanted to play Spider-Man?
Oh. I guess I wasn't on the internet. I didn't even know he said that.
Holy crap.
So
Blue, wait, yeah, do you remember that?
Yep.
Oh my god. Yo, when Finn was, they showed Finn as a stormtrooper, not him being wielding a lightsaber, but him as a stormtrooper. You should have seen the comments that were made about him being a freaking stormtrooper.
So
I come from the world of comic books and a lot of my fiction consumption, and there's this entire pocket of the internet with a hashtag that I'm not going to give a voice to, but like that's their whole thing on the internet. Trash folk who are not like the white male power fantasy that superheroes were founded on.
I think I'm blessed to not be on that.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I've seen it in sports too. Like seen it in sports too. Like you see, like people make comments when there are black athletes in sports that are predominantly white, like, or when the quarterback position, for instance, in football, like when there was an emergence.
Shout out
of
all
more
10 starting black quarterbacks.
Like you should, like
coming
the
up.
internet going crazy on that topic. Like, yeah, you see, it doesn't surprise me. It's surprising in I guess in a good way that you not been exposed to this, because I've seen it most of my life.
I've seen it, but to me that tweet hit a little differently.
It hit
because it was blatant, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like I've seen, like, that was, although I've seen people complain about black people in those spaces, I'd say the way that this was written was a lot more overt than I am used to. Just the fact that they said a perfect world to me. Like, it's one thing for someone to think those things, or to even draw the world and or film the world and have it be black people free. But to actually say that a world cannot be perfect with black people in it, to me, hit a little bit different. And the world that they were talking about was fictional. This ain't even real.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse my language. So yeah, just thought I would share that. So that being said, Ridley Scott, if you see this, this is the middle finger in Turkey. I learned that on Twitter this week.
Wait, do that again? What?
Like the thing, like if you say like got your nose to a kid, if you're in Turkey, this means F you. So
that's wild.
Isn't that also like a letter? Oh no, the letter in American Sign Language has two covered. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, that can get really
that could be real problematic if you're signing. Oh God. Jeez. Yeah, well then it can still be if people don't actually look close enough.
Probably. But yeah, sorry to go off on that little tangent, y'all. The conversation made me think about that. And so
it's all related.
So goes, I think women look great. I think children are in our future, but niggas. Yeah,
that's what I would say. For me, I've always felt like creating original characters that are black in fiction is what I would rather see than, especially when studios do it. I would just create an original character that is black, or another person of color, or a woman. Like, let those characters, if the character was created as a white character, keep it. Because like now you've got all of this back, especially in comics, like you got all this history of this character and like certain background. Like,
well, that's exactly why it's kind of weird in comics, because comics time moves slower.
Yeah.
Right. So like they're still younger. So in a world where a medium that was created where like black people weren't there at all, you have to do weird things to make them fit. And sometimes, if time moves similar, there's a lot of, like I said, like because you can't go and pick up a bunch of old comics, it's a weird type of free-for-all thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but to me, I'm like, all right, I would much rather see an original character that is black, that has his own story and his own backstory and his own lore and everything, or their own original story and lore that isn't based off of characters that we have seen in. That just me personally.
I think you just don't have So I think you just don't have weight. Like you have to go all the way. You can't make, by virtue of the character being a different race, their story is going to be different. Like my disappointment with the Jason Momoa Aquaman is they told the white blonde Arthur Curry story.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa clearly wasn't white or blonde, and to me, like the very, very, very like in your face alternative to that is Jason Momoa is Hawaiian.
Mhm.
That's a whole other ocean. Atlantis is in the Atlantic Ocean. You could have just made them oceanists. And everything could have then spun out from that. But instead, they were like Arthur Curry story.
Yeah,
Just pretend you don't notice he's not a blonde white dude.
It's lazy storytelling to me. But joining us on the show, JBM.
Yo,
What's going on, sir?
What's up? What's up?
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a long day.
Welcome. How's it? Yeah, how are
I
things going
understand.
with you?
Yeah, my eyes are dry. Been at the screen all day. But we're rocking and rolling. I was
Yeah,
watching y'all in
rocking
the
and rolling.
background.
Light glasses.
Huh?
So you got to get those blue light glasses, the ones that filter out
Yo,
the blue light.
these are supposed to be blue light filter, but I think they duped me on that.
Dang.
Need a stronger prescription? Is that like
Yes,
is that a
sir.
prescription thing or something?
Nah,
This is-
I have a pair of blue light glasses.
Yeah, these are actually prescription though, with blue light supposedly
Oh,
built in. But
that sounds expensive.
nah, I got that insurance, dog.
Yes, sir. That's what we talking about. Yes, sir.
Oh man, yeah. What's up though? How y'all been? What's new?
Chilling.
What I missed?
Hey, man, chilling like a villain over here.
We
Yeah.
were talking
No,
about
you have blue light.
Raised by Wolves and
Dope.
father looking real sad out here as the black man on the show.
Yo, I can see that too, but I actually like Father. I like his character.
I like him too. I'm only on episode 4, and as of right now, I love him, and I just feel like they also make him look a little weak in comparison to his white counterpart.
I
Yeah,
will
that
say,
I can definitely see that. Yeah,
yeah. I
It's,
think from a strength standpoint, yeah, I can
but
see
Mother
that.
is
'Cause
like she's a different design though. She's a war
she's not
machine.
that. She's only on episode 4.
Oh.
Like she ain't seen the whole
Hey.
thing, but
Ooh.
like there are some.
Well, you
And
know,
Lou
she's seen it
Lou hasn't seen it,
at
so
all.
Nope.
no. So
Nope.
don't. No spoilers.
Okay.
Jesus, he hopped right into it. Like,
Well, I
oh,
can't say so. I'll speak to what I
Oh,
like
man.
about it. It plays into philosophy and ideas of humanity and what might be best for us as a human race. It plays into gender roles, and I'll stop right there.
Yeah, to add to that without getting into spoilers, I'll say that he operates in many ways as the moral compass. And for that
Yeah.
kind of is sort of a redeeming
strength.
factor of him for me. And Lou, I see you.
I don't know,
I
because
see you down there.
We are that
Once you-
often, though.
Yeah.
right when you slide to white magical Negro moral compass, like
Yeah.
that's a trope. That's a strong.
It is.
That's
it is-
Mother's Milk and The Boys. If you go directly to something you just watched,
That's true. That's true. But Mother's Milk can go take
Calm
it there.
people down.
Yeah,
Mothers-
he can take it there
Yeah,
if he wants
he's
to.
about that action. But Father is it's interesting. He's an interesting character to watch.
To me, I would say Mother's Milk looks at the team and go, all right, we can't all be like cranked to 11. Somebody's got to be like, all right, let's think about this first.
oh yeah, no, it's a needed role. It's only when you look in aggregate that things are bad, right? Because you can always look at an individual story and like pick out how things are. They serve the story.
Yeah.
When we get put in certain roles to serve the story all the time, in aggregate, you're like, okay, we've still got this small bubble of acceptance.
Yeah, and I'll say the father is more on the nose with it than Mother's Milk is. Like Mother's Milk it's less he's not a stereotypical as
Yeah, he's got some grace.
father can get into
Father is
that, like
in a way.
he can almost turn into the butler. Like he's almost the help at times, and you're like, oh, cringe, and then scene changed and something happened, and then so timing, they don't spend a lot of time on those types of things, and it kind of helps me personally deal with that. But yeah, it's there.
In a way,
Yeah.
father is breastfeeding the white children. In a way, that's the best. The only difference is there's no children to neglect to take away from that. It's not like he's removing his teeth from his child to feed another. So that's where that's lost. But that's what
I mean, but just listen to where that line was.
Yeah.
That's a pretty far. You'd be like, at least he ain't pulling teeth from his own children.
But it's, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so that is a yeah.
But still watch it though.
Still, yeah, I still find it.
no,
It's still
and
enjoyable for sure.
Yeah.
If
Still
you
entertaining.
like remove the stereotype bubbles, your window of what you can watch is so small. So like you eat it if everything else is good.
Yeah.
In a way, I wonder is it better to have father on the show, or is it better to just replace him with a white character? Or to replace all of the minorities with white people. I would much rather have father as he is than to just
like
have white
you can like gender and or race swap the characters, but the role he plays is still necessary. So someone's gonna have to play it.
Yeah.
Within the story for the story to work.
Yeah, they're androids, so it's it goes back to that philosophy thing and what you're programmed to do versus what you.
Yeah, and I'm just for calling it out.
I will say, continue.
Yeah, just like Imani said, call it out every time you see it. You can still enjoy it, and I'm gonna call it out every time. Zora Neale Hurston. If you're silent, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. That's exactly what. Well, at least there was a black person there. Does we happy with that? Like, we'd rather have a black person than no person. And they'll be like, "Hey, we got y'all. Y'all enjoyed it. It's good." So I just like point it out. You can keep enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to add to that. Yeah, so we also talked about the Pattinson rumor. Don't know if y'all were tuned in for that because I cleared up some things on that subject. As far as there was some truth and then there was some untruth to that.
Was there anything that wasn't in the Discord?
Yeah, so I addressed things that were untrue about what I put into the Discord. But there's still a lot of behind the scenes issues. The weight training thing is a very real issue that actually happened and that created some tension.
Signed a contract to beef up and then was like, yeah,
didn't do it. And then they got him to during the production in 2019, before COVID, they got him in a room in the studio. They reworked the contract. He hired a personal trainer to help him train while he was shooting the film. He got, he gained some, muscle mass in that time. And then COVID happened. He fires his personal trainer. And so from February to May, he didn't work out at all. And his co-stars they continued to work out. And so he lost all of his gains from the first time. And then I don't know if he's rehired one since filming has resumed or not, but that kind of sort of that's the truth within that rumor.
And he confirmed that himself in a GQ article too.
Yeah,
I'm chilling.
Yeah, and I think I put the article in the Discord as well, so you can check that out. But he does admit that he is.
That's wild. That's the audacity.
The audacity it's audacity that now sounds familiar to me after you watch what's that behind the scenes joint in The Mandalorian? When they were I'm thinking of when they were at the round table in the actors episode, and they're like, once you film a scene that costs money in the books, you kind of stuck with the actor.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you got to read.
Yeah, it's nothing you can do, especially given. Well,
They
it's a
started
little bit
filming
easier.
already.
Yeah, and the thing is, the wild thing with the Mandalorian is because he's fully armored, and then they have to voice over after post. He still comes in and dubs over the voice. They could have easily swapped him out if they needed to, because there were some issues behind the scenes that were mild there that kind of got worked out with Pedro Pascal wanting to have his face shown more in season 1 and 2, but then they negotiated, and
he got 2 body doubles. What he want his more face
that
for?
was part of the argument for Favreau and Filoni. They're like, yo, you're barely even on set, dude. Like you're hardly on set shooting. Like we've got an action stunt double for you, and we've got a guns stunt double for you. You're basically here walking with the child for the most part, and that's it. Like, so like, I mean, he's not doing his own stunts at all. Gina Carano is doing all her stuff herself. So it's kind of like, yeah, what we can swap you out easily. Like we can, it's easy to, I mean, shoot, we can just go with your stunt doubles and then have someone else come in and dub over the audio.
Right.
Anyway, like that's an easy swap. So that was a stupid argument. So that got squashed pretty quickly, and they probably threw him some more money, and he agreed to keep his face covered for longer. And what you might see in season 2 is that when there's no one around, he has his helmet off, so that at least he's on screen with his helmet off.
Right, because wouldn't that also be against the Mandalorian code?
Yes,
for him to just be taking off his.
But see, that's an interesting thing, because that's not. And I talked about that on Starlight Beacon on the last episode. That's not really something that we've ever seen in the Mandalorian culture. Like that was a new concept that they introduced for the show. But the clan of Mandalorians that are on Navarro are called the Tribe, which I'm thinking canonically what they're going to do is this is a devout tribe or clan of Mandalorians that live by some ancient code that was probably established by the Mandalore the First, which would explain why in Clone Wars and in Rebels we see Mandalorians walking around all the time with their helmets off, because like you're going to have a canonical issue if this is true, because we see them all the time in previous iterations with their helmets off. Even Jango Fett, who they don't consider a Mandalorian in episode 2, when he's talking to Obi-Wan, has his helmet off. So this isn't,
and he made a bunch
it
of
ain't
clones
really
with
gonna
his
work. Yeah, it's not really
the
gonna
point.
work. So unless it is like, all right, well, this tribe here, they are devout Mandalorians that really walk the true path of the Mandalorian, and the other ones kind of sort of loosened up or have lax rules about the whole helmet thing. But we'll see. But yeah, so yeah, anyway, and the Ben Affleck stuff is not true. Ben Affleck was never on set to shoot any scenes. The guy that they thought was Ben Affleck is actually Robert Pattinson's stunt double, which so for whatever reason looks just like Ben Affleck. Like
it could be Ben Affleck stunt double.
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
like size, like height, like you see the dude on the bike. I'm like, yo, is that Ben Affleck? Like he does look like Ben Affleck, but that wasn't who that was. What kind of sort of I think happened there is that when the Snyder Cut stuff began negotiating in January, and then COVID happened, I don't think Warner Brothers was anticipating that Ben Affleck would want to return to shoot more solo films for the Batman. And so they were planning for Pattinson's Batman to be the flagship Batman for going forward. And then they would kind of sort of write out Ben Affleck's version of Batman in probably some other films. Thing. Yeah. So now once they agreed to the Snyder Cut, and then Ben Affleck found out that Snyder was coming back on board, he had more confidence in the studio's direction, and now he agreed to come on to do more solo Batman films. Now they've got an issue canonically with who's going to be the main Batman, because if the Snyder Cut comes in, has success, and people like this version of Justice League, then logically they're going to want to see more versions of that Batman, which would put more priority on the Batfleck over Pattinson. Because if that's going to be their main multiverse story, is this Snyderverse, then you can't. Of course, the studio it would make more sense for them to prioritize those projects and then spread out the release of the subsequent sequels for Pattinson's Batman. And I think that's kind of sort of the truth behind that part of the rumor.
Unless Snyder needs 10 hours to really tell a story, and then you just be like, okay, maybe we just go into a deal with HBO and make a TV show.
But see, all of it is supposed to be going on to HBO Max. Like this is all going to live on there.
Right. So if that's the case, then the movies will be the movies, and you just let Zack Snyder have a TV show, and maybe he can do that better than he does film.
Right, you have a point there, and I think that's why they pushed it all the way to 2022, because they probably need some more time to figure out how they're going to fit all of this stuff into this production schedule that's now backlogged back to 3 years based on COVID. So that's the synopsis of our up top conversation. If you were just now tuning in, get more detail on that on the rewatch.
All right.
But yeah, that's kind of what we've talked about thus far. What else?
We're getting close to 2 hours. Do we really want to talk about Lovecraft, or do we want to talk about get straight into the community discussion? Even though it would just be the us discussion right now.
Oh, if it's
we got 6 people on. So yeah, we've missed 2 episodes with the large panel, the group. Everyone hadn't got everyone's thoughts and opinions on those last 2 episodes. So
let's talk Lovecraft.
Okay. First of all, I Am was a fire episode all the way around. Hippolyta was living that life. She got that multiversal key. I really love the scene where she talked about how she shrank herself subconsciously to be the wife that George Freeman needed. And it really resonated with what I see sort of like the role of marriage in the community be. So I was like, oh yeah, you better do your own thing. And the imagery of where they decided to place her in time and space was all super cool. And I was like, oh man, this episode makes some of the sweating and heartbreak worth it. The last 3 episodes have been super interesting because some of the feedback I've heard is like Atticus has sort of fallen to the background. But in order to do like an ensemble show like they did, I feel like they've done a pretty good job in balancing the two. And I really liked the stories they told. I also didn't get to talk about the episode with Gia, and that was dope. And I like that they actually just did that whole episode in Korean and was like, y'all gonna have to read some subtitles this week. That's what it is.
That the Hippolyta episode was definitely up there, but that still might be my favorite episode of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Super interesting. When Gia showed up, that scene was crazy. When she showed up and
not as explosive as I thought.
That,
so powerful.
That was shout out to Naruto. That was
I talked about that on Aftercraft. Like I was like, yo, this is Naruto. I was like, yo, I did not know this was Naruto because I didn't know that the those were tails.
You could not tell me she was a bug until she explained herself.
Yeah. Till I got that explanation, I was like, hey, bro, these are spider legs.
Yeah, they definitely were tentacly.
Yeah.
I also like that the last few episodes focus on women. Last episode, I say Topsy and Bopsy were some scary folk.
Fire. That was fire.
Shout out to whoever choreographed that, but also shout out to those girls for just maintaining that energy throughout the episode. They were lit.
Definitely.
They did the Harlem Shake at one point.
They did everything.
They were doing everything. They were doing the absolute most. And
let me tell you how it took me a minute to be afraid of them though, because at first I was like, I don't know. Black Ghost been helping us thus far.
Yeah,
Maybe
I can see
need
that.
to stop and see if they're gonna help her be able to speak. And then like after she locked herself in the bathroom and it was on the book, I was like, oh no, nah, they not good. Nope, run, run.
Yeah, because it was on the Uncle Tom's Cabin book, and I was like, yeah,
Yep.
no, they not here to help you.
Yeah.
Nope.
They were scary.
That was the message right there on the
Yeah.
time
That was
page.
it. It was Uncle Tom. Oh Lord,
Yep. Up until that point, I was like, I don't know, they could be here to help.
which is
They
another
were
great
scary from the subway scene.
for
That
on the
reminded
right
me
on
of
the end of the
Kids.
writing. But no, yeah, shout out to the makeup team, to who the choreographers, to the actresses, like I mean, all the way around, like how they execute those characters were great. Because they make you uncomfortable. At the least, they're gonna make you uncomfortable.
Also, shout out to Misha, who confirmed, she didn't say exactly how, but she did confirm that D drawing Topsy and Bopsy's face in the window was impactful. So D's drawings do things. We have that conversation because I said on Aftercraft that she made the girls pop up, and Coop was like, and she confirmed it. We still don't know if it's like that she knows the future is going to happen or if she's making it happen. But there is a significance to her drawings and their reality.
All I said was my argument was that she needed to draw them so that other people would know what they looked like.
That's what I was thinking.
That was my argument.
But
I said I didn't believe that was that her drawing them conjured them to the location. I just said, but I also said that I could see that as a possibility. I just thought from her perspective, knowing that no one else could see them, that if she drew them, at least people would know that it was something going on, that she wasn't crazy.
Also, I learned from this show that Emmett Till was from Chicago.
Oh, really?
Emmett Till was on vacation.
I'm saying you didn't know. I thought,
I
wow,
didn't know.
that you didn't know that.
So, like, because I knew he was killed in Memphis, and I was like, oh, this is where he from, downriver. This crap happens. Like, I didn't know it was a short trip, so I learned a thing, and I was like, how could that be? But they in Illinois, and I hit the Googles, and I was like, oh, wow.
I didn't know that she brought him back to Chicago. That I didn't know. I didn't know his funeral was there. I didn't know all of that. So that was crazy. But I also have to say, what the last episode confirmed is that these people are the worst babysitters on earth. And Hippolyta, in some way or shape, in some form, has to come back. She has to assist D because D is no longer safe. And either she is going to take D with her to the future or she's going to come back. But my money is on her taking D from them completely because they're unqualified.
Yo, you know it was bad when like Montrose was doing the best job.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Man, yes, that's what I was saying on the last episode. We have a good theory for who the future girl is. That we talked about on Aftercraft. Yeah.
Beyonce.
No, not Beyonce.
Beyonce with the D. That's Shannon Houston wrote the episode and she tweeted like that's her name, Beyonce.
Oh, I
from
pronounced
episode 7.
Wrong.
Huh?
From episode 7.
Yeah, the girl who gave Atticus the book.
The garnet looking John?
No, you're thinking of the big
oh yes,
Atticus Pro. We're talking about the woman with the hood that had a robot arm.
Oh.
Yeah, the
one the one that like pushed him.
Yeah, gave him the Lovecraft Country book written by his son and pushed him, spoilers everyone, sorry. And pushed him back into the past.
Yeah, I remember him mentioning that in past episode, but I don't remember seeing that in episode 7.
It was quick.
Yeah, super fast.
Is at the end of I Am, but I guess we could just say it since we said on Aftercraft. We think that's D because remember
how
Bopsy attacked her arm, and so her arm is going to be jacked up, and so that's why we think they're
gonna amputate the arm, and then she's gonna get a robotic arm, and then somehow
How old did she
Hippolyta.
look in the hood? Could you see the face?
You
A
can't see
little
the
No,
bit
you
at
can't
all?
see.
It's a woman.
But
You see an arm.
but if Imani's theory proves true about Hippolyta taking D to the future, then we don't know how old. She might be a few years older or what. Like the age thing wouldn't really matter at that point in time, depending on because if she brings her into this other world that Hippolyta now exists in, then she kind of sort of exists in just time and
Other
space.
world, all the worlds,
Yeah.
Yeah,
all
all
the
the worlds.
times.
Dr.
She is,
Manhattan right now.
she is everything and
The,
everywhere
the
at
world
once.
between worlds.
That was dope. That was a dope episode, man. I am.
Yeah, each episode for me keeps it raising the bar. Like I'm really digging the
The
show. Like
last
they've done a
episode
phenomenal job
was
writing.
Yeah, the last episode was definitely like the most classic horror-y they've been since the first three.
Yes. That's
They
what I like
definitely took
most
me back
about
to
that one.
episode 3.
And it was a good breather too, because 6 and 7 were a bit extreme in the imagination. And then 8 led up with like a classic horror story.
Mm-hmm.
As far as character development, I would say right now, growth-wise, Montrose is my favorite character on the show. I can say that he is getting better. In comparison to how I felt about him, especially after, what was that, episode 4 or 5, after they had to go to
4 where he killed
Yeah.
Cold-blooded murder.
Yeah.
the
I'm
two-spirited one.
better about him now. And he is, in my mind, redeemed himself. And I think he's going to move on a more, what's the word I'm looking for? A more
Redemption.
helpful path. Yeah.
No,
It's
he's
like
on a
now, instead of just messing stuff up all the time.
Yeah, he's on a redemption arc, and we also brought this up last week on Aftercraft. If you are watching Aftercraft at 10:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right after each episode of Lovecraft Country, make sure you tune into this channel to check us out on that. But yeah, we give our raw reactions to the episode like right after it airs. So
I should do an ODB soundbite to that.
Yeah, an ODB soundbite.
Yeah.
What do you
For
mean?
The raw reaction.
Oh, baby.
I like it raw.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Dang, I lost my train of thought. The shit.
But yeah, my mom is now caught up. We watched the last one together. We're watching it together tomorrow, so I'm excited. My mom's caught up. And yeah, I've enjoyed it all the way through. I've liked Atticus's background just because I don't know if he's my favorite character, but like it's very clear. I think it's definitely clear by episode 6 with the whole Gia thing that Atticus he's not worthy of being our hero. And the main thing that makes him not worthy of being our hero isn't even that he's done some horrible things, it's that he tries to go it alone all the time, and going it alone ends up getting people hurt. So like him slowly letting people in, I've been like, okay, I see where this is, and I like the growth.
Yeah.
So how do we feel about Ruby right now? Where's she at?
Man, I'm so sick of Ruby. Like how your freaking niece basically is missing, and you decide that you stressed out because of what you saw, and you want to go have sex as a white woman to change your mind. And it was completely
crazy.
selfish. It was just she wanted to get her rocks off, and she was trying to use Emmett as an excuse. Meanwhile, D is still missing me.
I don't know about excuse, because I feel like if you saw that, you gotta like get that out of your head. However,
I agree, but
I do think, yeah,
like if there was one day where D should not be missing, it's that day.
Yeah,
and like nobody cared about Ruby really in this episode. In my opinion, not even Montrose. He was doing the best, but I don't think they did good enough.
Yeah, no, they definitely didn't do good enough, obviously, because she ended up with the cops alone. But yeah, no, Atticus and Letty ain't even try. Letty walked away from her.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Letty actively was like, "Oh nah, talk to somebody else."
Yeah, Letty, that was wild because she was trying. Letty tried to figure out what D was talking about and not been so dismissive, like
Yeah,
probably could
she's
have avoided getting bit. Because I mean, with I guess I don't know. Well, with the warding spell on the house, would she be safe in the house, or could they get in the house too?
That's a good question.
yeah. I think she would be safe in the house. But
Yeah,
she was
that's
running away from the house the whole episode.
It
Yeah,
also
she,
yeah.
depends.
But does she know that the house is warded? She may not know that the house is
Nah,
warded.
she
yeah,
don't.
she wouldn't. Yeah, because she wasn't around during that.
Yeah, because she's
Yeah.
been at her at Uncle George's and Hevelitis. She's been at her parents' house. So yeah, that would have saved her truly. Because if she would have listened to her and let her explain what the heck was going on, like things would
Yeah.
have
I
made
think
sense.
I feel like the Letty's character would have listened to D instead of walking away. So that the
I think
news of
it's one of
Gia
those
coming just must have really
yeah. I
jarred
think it's
her.
one of those non-linear progress things because I can see Letty doing either. In the
Yeah,
right
especially if
headspace,
she
Letty
can't
would.
see
But like,
she can't see the creatures that are attacking her.
but when Letty gets single focus, she ends up yeah. So Atticus ends up hurting the people around him for trying to go it alone, and Letty does it for getting tunnel vision and not realizing like there's other people still there.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, I feel like Letty kind of failed as a mom in this episode. Like, we can't forget that she's pregnant. She's, responsible for another life that's within her in a way. She's not necessarily happy about it, but she is with child and she knows it. And
Yo, everybody know, and she think nobody but her know. That's the crazy part.
everybody knows. And she
Yeah.
failed another child in this episode. So yeah, as
I feel like she'll reconcile that next tomorrow.
she better. I mean, I don't
know how she couldn't break that.
I don't want any of them to reconcile anything. I'm coming to get my kid because y'all have lost your minds. So I don't know if they're really going to get that opportunity.
But she got to figure it out in her
I
head.
think Letty has a conscience though. Like I think when it hits home that something actually did happen, like it's gonna gut her. Because like of everyone in that show, besides I think I would say other than like Hippolyta and probably Uncle George, like Letty's probably the one that's got the most like heart and like empathy and compassion, I would say.
I gotta say though, forget the creepy ghost creatures. D not afraid of no cop. She was bout it.
Yeah, that was that was hilarious.
I
live for that, bruh. That was one of my favorite moments in this show. That was one of my favorite moments.
So much happened in this episode that we forgot the fact that the the sheriff, the captain guy knows magic. It's one thing to be affected by magic and to know that magic exists, but we now know for a fact that he knows how to use magic. That's another thing that is easy to overlook because that's the first time we saw him himself use it.
So here's the question, because I told myself I was going to go back and check this and I didn't. It may not be relevant. Was he outside of the house when the Shiggoth comes and protects Atticus? Because he might just be.
No. He was outside. He got his arm ripped off by the monster. That was the last cop you see get tore up.
Yeah,
and then it grabs him and tosses him like to the side, like, and you see his body fly across the building.
Yeah.
But he may not be around for it to matter.
Yeah. But I mean, because they didn't show him die on screen, technically, he was still alive when he got tossed. He's probably alive still. And we know that his chest is like he's some sort of Frankenstein of a thing. So
what did y'all think when the bullet was slow-mo going towards Atticus?
Oh, he was dead.
I didn't think he was dead in that moment because Christina wasn't around, and we know that Christina needs him to die on her terms.
Yeah, I didn't think he was dead, but I definitely thought that bullet was going to hit.
I
Yeah,
thought he
well, I
was
would say
gonna
that.
get. I thought it was gonna bounce off of him like Letty, like it was doing with Letty in the house. I was like, oh, the spell is like gonna manifest right now. Then that monster popped
Mm,
up, and I was like,
no,
whoa.
so that the mark of Cain is only a protection for her, and I think we see it work with Christina when she gets
Yo,
What was
because
we
that
talked.
about? What? Yeah, like
She
what
was clear. I can see what she was trying to do, but still, it was a weird way of going about doing it.
so yeah, and we
yeah,
talked about this on Aftercraft. I think that she actually does have some sort of connection to Ruby. I think she, in her own way, cares about Ruby. And I
Yes,
think because the death of Emmett Till had such an effect on her, she wanted to experience it
that's
for herself.
absolutely it. Because the way they set it up, she did exactly
It
what
was
Ruby
exactly how
said.
he died. Yeah.
Yeah, but like exactly how Ruby described
Well,
his
yeah,
death.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
She's like, "How do you feel that a young boy got beat up on the street, wrapped up with barbed wire around his neck, tied to a cotton gin, and dropped into the river?" So that's exactly what she had people do to her.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then she whispers under her breath um a spell, and it may have been the mark of, like she may have been activating the mark of Cain or deactivating the mark of Cain so that she could actually take the damage.
That's
And then
she confirmed it. She was deactive. She was removing the mark so that she could feel the pain, and then when she was thrown in the water, then she reactivated it so she could come back to life.
But what was up with that laugh though? That was not a empathetic laugh. That was like
Yeah, that
a
was
I
well,
don't
she
know
was
what that was.
trying to empathize, but she can't really. So I think that was like an in between. There was like, because it was a laugh that was like a mixed up horror and thrill. Like she was shook, but she also was like, that was mad exhilarating. Ha 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 ha.
yeah, because like if she can't take damage, like she can't be harmed in any way. She probably didn't feel anything for the most part. So that's probably the first time she's felt anything in a long time. And so that rush of adrenaline and raw emotion and the pain and all of that coming in all at the same time gave her a mix of emotion. And I think
I don't know,
that's what that
man.
laugh was.
I think she
If she
was feeling
wasn't,
those wizard strokes.
I'm screaming. If she wasn't feeling invincible before, if or at least if she thought she was, she's feeling even more invincible now. Like she just went through a traumatic experience and she's completely fine. There's not a mark on her. She's in this next episode is going to be feeling like she can take anything. And on top of that, now because of what happened to Dee, they need Christina to help. So that's going to be just a whole other thing. Like, not only am I invincible, but now these people need me. So
Mm.
we'll see.
I also gotta say, at the onset of the episode, I thought they were gonna illogically charge D with the murder of that cop
Which cop?
Yeah, at the
at the
beginning
end of
of
the
the
last
episode,
episode
I
when
think
the
I
cops
think
first rolled up on it.
yeah, I think prior to the episode beginning, I was thinking the same thing. Like she was somehow going to get charged um, with either they were going to convince the police force that she was the one that killed the police, and she was either going to get arrested or even worse, get killed uh, by the police, or something horrific to that effect. But the curse, what I wasn't expecting the curse.
I think I agreed until we found out that the police officer knows magic. Because although we know him and maybe one other person on the force knows, not all of them are privy to magic and what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
So
that's why that one cop could go in the
also,
house and the other two couldn't.
right.
Yeah.
So that's he also in a way needs to keep the fact that he knows magic a secret from the other officers. So like how can he really say we found this officer here at this place where this magical thing was, and we know your mom went back into time. Like he can't really go in depth, and it suits him more to put the curse on her to try to get information out of her anyway. So that's That's the only reason why they did not do that, because he still needs to keep magic a secret from everybody else.
Yeah, I get it. After I saw it, it's just like up to that point, I was like, they're gonna say she did it. It's gonna be miles away, and she can't drive. They're gonna say she did it.
Right.
I think that's going to be. I think that was part of his calculation, was that either she's going to get so frightened that she's going to come and confess everything to him, or she's going to die. And
obviously, he ain't know that D was about that action.
Right. And then he also didn't know up to that point that they knew not only because he didn't know how much they knew about magic or if they knew about it at all, let alone he finds out that they know magic well enough to cast spells because of the warding spell on the door of the house. Like that's when he really found out about their knowledge of magic.
The only difference is right now, I mean, he's technically right. At the time, they didn't know how to use magic. And at the end of the episode, we now see that both Letty and Atticus have some sort of power. And I mean, technically now Ruby does too. So they are all in their own ways magical people.
Well, actually, in a way, Ruby was the first in the group to be able to use magic.
Yeah.
She's the first one with
all Letty's magic points so far are assists, but
something too I brought up was like that communication thing that they got to work on, all the communication breakdowns that they've got with each other.
Yeah.
If Atticus had communicated to the rest of the team that he was going to meet with Christina to barter the key to gain the spell for the creature, or that protection spell that he got, Letty would have never gone to meet with Christina to get the spell for the Mark of Cain, because she also gave her the pages. Like, if they had just communicated that, like, because I didn't know why Atticus was giving them the key, but his argument is that, because the machine is broken, this key is useless. So I'm giving her false hope. Like, she doesn't know that this thing is broken. So I'm gonna trade the key for her. Now I've got an advantage, which worked. He gave her she agreed to trade the spell for the key, not knowing that this machine is broken. And Letty also, because they're not communicating, goes to meet with Christina at the church and gets the Mark of Cain spell in exchange for the pages. And like, now she's got 2 points. She's got 2 infinity stones now.
Yeah. I also gotta say, that reminds me, like, for a moment I kind of thought that the Book of Names actually was the machine, just because they kept asking Hippolyta who she was, and it had all sorts of powers, and I was like, is like the Book of Names one of those portmanteaus for what do you name a multiversal machine?
Mm-hmm.
But I've since episode 8 decided I don't know about that one, but I remember episode 7 being like, is that why they're asking her name?
Yeah, I think my theory was now, since episode 8, is that Christina's going to go back in time to get to when the pages were created, to get all of the pages.
Yeah. But to be able to navigate herself, will she easily gain that ability to navigate herself? Like Hippolyta did.
Yeah, like, will she?
I would hope so, because
she's not going to help Hippolyta did. At least I don't think.
Right.
But you also. Oh yeah, no, she won't get help from them. But if it's a multi-dimensional device, like, she will find something in there will help her, probably, because I think that those beings that help Hippolyta guide her to that point. Because I don't think Hippolyta has control over where she's getting, what point in space time she's getting pulled to. I think that they bring her into this space, and I think potentially the same thing can happen for Christina or anyone who enters. Like, someone's going to pull them through, unless she knows how to navigate it.
So maybe she'll go back in time to Tulsa, 1921. Find the Book of Names there. I don't know. Next
Yeah,
episode.
she could. I mean, or she could go all the way back in time to when they're created.
Since they've mentioned that, I kind of want to, if it's possible, I want Atticus to go back to then. I think, especially after that crazy laugh that she had after coming back to life, I don't think Christina cares about race issues.
Yeah. Nope. She care about her black girlfriend. That's about it.
Since Atticus had been to the future, he knew Letty was pregnant with his child, and he was trying to protect. Yeah. He was, but that's where I'm saying that if they had communicated properly, then there would have been no need for Letty to go and make a deal with Christina, because he was getting the protection spell to protect Letty and himself. Well, yeah, to protect the family, to protect everyone, and she was doing it to protect Atticus. Had they just simply communicated that they need to meet with Christina to negotiate some sort of
They
protection
probably would have
spell,
only gave up one thing.
they would only gave up one item, which would have been the key, because that's the most logical item to give up, being that the machine is broken.
Yeah. The scene with Montrose, the fact that he has dyslexia and he can't,
Yeah, that stressed me the hell out.
and he was still able to. Well, we don't know if he said the spell properly, but what we do know is that what was more important was his intention, and the power of intention. I think I hope that's a ongoing theme. I think that's just important in reality anyway. So intention, I think, is going to be a ongoing theme in the show, and I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, I think his the completion of his redemption arc is the sacrifice that to save Atticus and Letty.
He's gonna have to come clean about that fatherhood.
He ain't his
Does he?
come clean about.
Yeah,
Uncle George is the one who needs to come clean, and the wife and they dead.
Right. Like, does he need to come clean?
yeah.
I feel like
He kind of sort of hints at what his future is in that episode when he says that he'll do anything he has to in order to protect Atticus and his grandson. And I think that, given the conversation Christina had about not upsetting the natural balance, if Atticus dies, the only way to bring him back is with another sacrifice. And so I think Montrose is going to have to sacrifice himself in order to bring Atticus back to life.
yeah, but I don't know if the daddy issue is ever going to come up. I feel like
Why
in
would
those
they
times,
mention it though if they don't? You know what I mean? It's like, don't do that.
it's not like they spent time on it. It was like it could be a throwaway. Just be like, hey, just so y'all know, the 1950s, you ain't have Maury.
I kind of took that into all that's there with of reiterating the fact that Montrose is gay.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the DL culture in that time period. Then, like, I mean, because there are a number of instances of married couples where someone was homosexual, and like so, and either they both may have known about it, and then they, like he was saying in the conversation with Atticus, which I thought was a really good conversation about, the love having different forms, and they're agreeing to basically come together to raise Atticus, was
Because familial love is the strongest love there is.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the familiar love, like that was the message. Like, I don't think it has to be. I think for me that resolved it, because he clarified the dynamics of that relationship and the understanding of familiar love, and that being the agreement between Atticus's mom and Montrose, and that's basically the foundation of their relationship.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, but Montrose, his whole character was about living a lie, right? Keeping his homosexuality a secret, keeping fatherhood thing a secret, and we've seen the homosexuality come to light. And so now this fatherhood situation got to come to light. He got to spill the beans, man.
Unless like the fatherhood situation of a familial love thing is the closed loop, right? Because if they marry because Atticus's mom was about to have a child out of wedlock because it was on a down low, you save your brother from the embarrassment of saying he was on a down low by marrying this woman and saying this is our kid, and now you've turned all suspicion about your homosexuality away, and then you've got that family.
Yeah, you killed two birds.
Yeah,
with
but
one
that's
stone.
so asynchronous. Though. Like, what's in it for Atticus?
He was a baby.
Yeah.
Man, that's I don't.
When
see
is there
like,
ever
man, you got to
anything
come
in
clean.
childbirth for the child?
Also,
Like the parents make the decision.
that, like, we don't know for sure if Uncle George was supposed to be sleeping with that woman in the first place. He's married to Hippolyta. They never gave us a times table, but for as far as we're concerned, like the reason why Uncle George and Atticus's mother weren't together in the first place is I think Uncle George wasn't supposed to be around her in the first
Right, which is why the marriage for Atticus's pregnancy, like it all fits. I've saved my brother.
Yeah.
I've ward suspicion off from me, and this child will have a father.
that. And I also think, although he was having issues with his own father, Montrose still wanted to be a dad. He wasn't a good one, but I don't think that was just something he was doing.
Yeah, and then that also explains why Uncle George maintained his relationship with Atticus and was that father figure in the end to him.
All right, so two things. Does Gia know about that, or can she only see his future when she slept with him? And number two,
His whole life.
does Atticus know from the book that his future son wrote? Is it there and he's just kind of keeping it to himself type of thing?
Oh, those are two good points.
Very good points. I don't have the answers for either of them.
It would have to be that the truth for it to be in the book, the truth would have to be revealed by Montrose.
Yeah, that's what
And
I'm saying. He got to spill them beans, dog.
I don't think so. I think he's gonna die before that happens.
I don't see Gia
because he's not gonna survive this episode.
Yo, I mean, if Gia was the one who told, that would be maximum petty. She'd have been like, "I'm gonna come all the way from America for you to throw me out the house." Okay, because your daddy ain't your daddy.
I mean, they can't complete Montrose. You can't complete Montrose's redemption arc without his sacrifice.
Possibly.
Him sacrificing his life, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's going to be the one that sacrifices his life to save Atticus, because Atticus is going to die.
If we go off Mackie Boomer's theory, it might be Ruby that sacrifices for Atticus. You know,
that's
blood.
That's empty to me from a story standpoint. Like that's an empty sacrifice. That's not weighted. Like that's you.
Surprise.
If that's the sacrifice, then that would be terrible. That's a terrible ending. Like the satisfying sacrifice is Montrose, because that's the final piece of his redemption. For him, for the one moment that he would get to not be selfish and to sacrifice his own life to save his son, or at least the person he's claiming to be his son, the one moment he'd have to be a father on screen. You're gonna rob him of that to give it to Ruby. That's horrible.
It seems like it's leading to that, but this show is so unexpected. Like that might not even be.
I don't know, because I feel like the best twists in film are only unexpected till it happens, and like once it happens, you're like, oh, I see how everything led up to that.
Yeah. He foreshadowed in the last episode that he's going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, he plainly stated it, didn't he? He was like
that's foreshadowing at this point, because they've already started him on this redemption arc ever since the confession, ever since they were in the drag club. Like he's been on a steady arc of redemption,
which says something, I think, about the weight of secrets. Because people didn't know because he planned for them to know, but now that he's living his full self, he can start to put pieces back together.
Yeah.
Also, in a way, we can argue that his ultimate sacrifice or just his ultimate proof of love was the fact that the spell worked. He already says intentions. He intended for his son to be safe, and he gave him power. I don't think the spell worked because Atticus comes from magic in his bloodline. The spell worked because Montrose believed in it and believed that he needed to do whatever he could to save his son. So in a way, that is still a really big deal. And if it were not for Montrose's love, Atticus would not have that power right now. He would not have that protection.
Yeah, but that's also kind of misleading because Christina gave them the spell, which also means that she knows how to remove it. So in the moment when she needs Atticus to die, she is going to remove that spell.
Also, I think it's significant that the monster was black. I don't know why yet, though.
Was the monster black?
The monster was black.
The
skin.
The skin was black versus the ones from the previous scenes were more pale.
Yo, I missed that completely. I gotta go back and catch that. Man, all right. Man, I had something I was gonna say. Yeah, that came out earlier.
He thinks he's weak. He realizes that the only thing he can do is sacrifice life. Yeah. Like that's kind of sort of my point. I think in the moment, like, yes, it's a satisfactory thing that the spell works, and it did save Atticus in that moment, but that's not where he's going to die. Like, he's going to die at the hands of Christina. Like, that's where his true death is going to be.
Yeah, and now the thing is, in the last episode.
Yeah, and the thing for Montrose is in that moment when that happens, given that we know that in order to not upset the natural balance and to keep the world from going into chaos, like if they're going to save a life or bring a life back, like one has to be sacrificed. He's going to be the one that sacrifices it, and then Letty can then use the she can use his blood and the spell of the Mark of Cain, that in conjunction with the sacrifice of Montrose to bring Atticus back to life naturally without there being any chaotic repercussions.
Yeah, the other half of that, Montrose isn't happy being gay. He thinks he's weak. I agree with that statement. So, like, when I say Montrose is living in his truth, he's not exactly living in his truth by choice.
Yeah.
But since that weight is not there and he's making progress, I think the other part of that character arc, the other half, is he's going to learn that he's not weak and he's found strength since he's had to live his truth.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to say I need Montrose and Atticus to identify on screen that homosexuality is not weakness, preferably before one of them dies. And if Montrose is the one who dies, before he dies, he needs to recognize that he is not weak because he's gay. Because if he dies while thinking that, the show itself is reinforcing the idea that homosexuality is weakness, if that makes sense. So he needs to, like, accept himself, or at the very least recognize that to be gay and to be weak are separate issues on screen before his death. I need that to happen.
I think that's a reasonable expectation.
Yeah. Shout out to all
my LGBT. We could see that. We could see that. I mean, it would happen. It would have either this episode
or the following. Yeah,
the following. Like, they got much time, but they definitely got to.
Do you think they're gonna kill Atticus or whoever by the season finale, or do you think they're gonna keep us on our toes?
I think
they're gonna
happen in the season finale.
Yeah. I think if there's gonna be a season 2, hope there is. But I think they took the 10, like, not sure if they were gonna get 10 more, so they do one of those like closed loop things. Here's a little something if we get another season.
Yeah, I think that Montrose, or not Montrose, but Atticus' death is going to happen probably at the beginning of the first episode, or the last episode of the season finale, and then they're going to bring him back near the end.
Depending
What
on
if
how
there's no season 2 like they did Watchmen? How would
Also, does George come back with Hippolyta? Because he was definitely on them space adventures with her.
because when she woke up in the bed, that was before his death. So in reality, he never went in that reality, in that dimension. He never went to the house, and he was never killed. The scene with the police never happened because she decided that she was no longer going to be George's wife. She was going to be Hippolyta, and in fact, George turned into Hippolyta's husband, and
Right.
her adventures with her. So in that dimension, he never died.
Right, but like when Hippolyta shows back up, is she bringing her husband with her?
It all depends.
He's left in the.
That's going to be tricky.
In the I am world.
Will
Will she come back though? I don't think she's coming back.
Because now you're playing with alternate timelines, which means there's an alternate version of every character in another timeline that they can bring back, hypothetically, if that's
but if Hippolyta don't be one with the key, then
that's where time starts. Like if you start playing with time in that regard, like as a writer, that's going to be. I don't think they have enough. They damn sure don't have enough time left in show minutes to resolve that. If that's the case,
they technically have already played
because that's a big
the fact that Atticus has that book. They've already started it. So in a way,
but I'm saying
the first thing you're not supposed to tell someone. You're not supposed to tell someone who's in the past what's going to happen in the future. That's like the number one rule of time. And that's exactly what they did by giving Atticus that book.
Well, speaking on that and Hippolyta being like an interdimensional travel, how would y'all feel if they had a season 2 and it was an entirely different cast and Hippolyta was the kind of the doorway between the cast in 1 and the new cast in 2?
I wouldn't mind a different story in the same universe, but I definitely don't want a continuation of these characters' story. Like I would be okay with a new complete new characters, new arc, new timeline, same sort of horror racial issues, but in a different time period.
70s.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that, with brand new characters where these characters still exist in this timeline, but we're not directly following them anymore. I'll be okay with that.
I am perfectly fine with this ending next week and never coming back.
I'm actually better with that.
My mom is not. I'm okay with it, but my mom was like, they can't just end it after one season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with them I'm cool with how the Watchmen ended. Like, I don't really need a continuation of that story unless they do a spinoff with Lady Knight. And it's not the Watchmen, but it's something dealing with her becoming the omnipotent Mrs. Manhattan.
I got a whole thing for Watchmen season 2, but it also wouldn't just be like a direct continuation. But also, Watchmen is a closed story. And so
it's good to have closed stories in this day and age of streaming. It would be gratifying to get a conclusion.
What would be interesting is HBO Max versus HBO Max in a limited series battle that is Lovecraft Country versus I May Destroy You. That Emmy match off will be.
I haven't started watching I May Destroy You.
It's heavy. It's like every sexual trigger warning that there can possibly be, you apply to that show, but like it's so incredible.
Oh man, okay. I've heard a lot of people recommend it, and a lot of people talk about it.
It's amazing. It's very unique. There's not really anything like it. Super well written, but also sexual assault trigger warnings for every episode.
Okay.
Good to know.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I feel like people who just recommend it and say it's so good, I'm like, I don't know if you could. You gotta tell people a little bit what they signed up for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a very real PTSD trigger for people.
Yeah, that's a real good warning for sure. I think anything that could be triggering people need to warn people about.
off topic, but that's how I felt about the R. Kelly documentary that everybody and their mama was recommending. Like, y'all, some people don't want to watch that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Like some people are not really with that, and y'all got to recognize it. Like, not everybody can handle that.
Yeah, I went with it.
Yep. That and the MJ thing too. Like both of those require both require trigger warnings. Yeah, both of those require trigger warnings. Like, because no matter where you stand on those issues, like it deserves a trigger warning. Like you need to let people know what this show is, what you're going to see, and they need to decide if they're going to be okay with that before they start watching it. Because you're not dealing with fiction with these things. This is a real thing. These are real topics.
In a way, I'm starting to, well, not starting to feel, but it's clear that although like most of the stuff on TV is fiction, it's so far off from our reality that we're kind of like being handheld by TV shows. Mm-hmm. And although it is triggering, we probably need more things like I Made This For You.
Yeah, that's the whole function of fiction, to give perspective on the real. I agree.
Yeah, and it definitely comes down to the writing and execution of the story. Because if you're going to handle those topics, you got to know what you're doing. All right, so we're 2 hour 30-minute mark. Do we want to take? Yeah. Do we want to take 15 to talk about the zombies, or are we going to close it?
That was the community discussion, right?
Yeah, that's going to be the community discussion. I think I'm
for
good.
The community to get wider here.
Yeah, we'll get
save it, but also next week's combo should be a lengthy one because I still think I should share what I originally wanted next week's community discussion to be too. I don't want to.
So yeah, let's share because maybe we'll do a longer community discussion for next week.
Yes,
have a shorter show topics and have a longer form community discussion.
I wasn't thinking about Raised by Wolves when I came up with this community discussion, but it's crazy that we talked about children so much and how important they are. I feel like as far as genres go, horror is one of those that does not forget about kids. In fact, children are either being affected by the horrors or they are the horror themselves often in horror films. I just said horror like 15 times. So yeah, next week we talking about creepy kids. Whether the child was the one affected by the scare or whether the child was the scare themselves, from The Sixth Sense all the way to Children of the Corn, Chucky, like some scary kids out there, and we need to talk about it.
Omen.
I had one, yeah. I guess I'll save it for next week.
There's more than one.
There's plenty.
My favorites aren't even what I just mentioned, so yeah.
I got a ridiculous one.
We're ready for it.
Yeah. No, we're not, but we definitely want to hear it.
So next week, we're talking about zombie horror films. And although I love them, I just want to say, like, I did a little research to prepare for today, and we love zombies just as a culture in general. That's crazy that there are so many different films. But we're going to talk about zombies, and we're going to talk about them kids.
There's this episode of this podcast Through Line about zombies and how they came to be big in film and how zombie lore started in Haiti. So check that out before next week if you got the time.
You said it's called what?
What is this?
Through Line is the name of the podcast. It's the podcast where they go back in the past to understand the present. They do last Halloween. They did a zombie episode and talked about how you went from like zombie in the Haitian voodoo tradition and got to Night of the Living Dead.
Okay, yeah, wow. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Last year,
NPR's new history podcast.
Yeah.
The NPR podcast?
Yes, NPR podcast.
It's lit. I'm going to watch that. I'm going to listen to that, not watch it.
We knew what you meant.
Got it. And I just added it to the list.
Compion.
Oh, they have an episode.
I love that name, by the way. Compion.
Yeah, I do like
Compion.
that. No, as a matter of fact, I like how Father says his name.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Man. Father is everything.
Oh God.
Aside
So
from the Uncle Tom stuff,
Got it. I will be listening to Throughline before Wednesday. I will be listening to that. It's only 44 minutes, so I got it. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you
No
all
problem.
for joining us tonight. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night if you watch Lovecraft to our show Aftercraft, where it's me and Imani talking about our initial thoughts to the episode. We're doing reactions and just breaking down what we saw, trying to understand what it is we witnessed on screen, and discussing it with you all. So if you're going to watch it, make sure you tune in at 10 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. We'll be live. We may be 5 minutes late, but around 10:10, make sure you tune in.
Facts.
We might have a show planned on Monday or Tuesday of next week. We'll let you know more in the Discord if that is the case. Wednesday, make sure you tune in to Starlight Beacon at 8 p.m. This week it will actually be a doubleheader episode. We're going to be talking about episodes 4 and 5 of The Mandalorian. So make sure if you're watching The Mandalorian, tune in for that. We should be concluding this recap series the same week as season 2 drops on October 30th, which is a Friday. So we may be doing some episodes on Disney releases these episodes at like midnight on the day of, or no, like 3 a.m. technically, so it's midnight on the West Coast. So we could do a show on Fridays, possibly. We'll definitely let you guys know more details on when we'll do the season 2 recaps and discussions. But that's on Wednesday, 8 p.m. episodes 4 through 5. So if you haven't seen those, make sure you check that out. And then we will be back, as always, next Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for episode 15 of the Cookout. This is Coop, Lou, JBM, Imani, signing out. Peace, love, and blessings to you all. And we will see you on the next episode.